Chapter 201. Noticing Jiang Lan's stare, Yi Yaoting shuddered. Her eyes regained their luster and she said blankly, "Sister Lan, you can't sleep either." Jiang Lan stared at her and chuckled, "Are you upset?" Yi Yaoting was silent for more than 10 seconds and sighed faintly, "A little. Previously, I thought that after going through the trials, I had matured a lot in all aspects, from my temperament to my strength. In the end, after watching his recent competition videos, I realized what it means to feel too good about oneself." As for the previous battle, she felt more surprised. The kid who was obviously easy to bully had suddenly awakened his innate talent and awakened his special ability, causing a short burst of power that caught her off guard. If they were to fight again, the result would not be like this. However, in less than 4 months, that young and inexperienced fellow had completely transformed into a formidable opponent. Regardless of whether it was one of the core forces of the Ice Sect or the Endless Tremor Punch, they were all things that were currently out of his reach. At this time, if she were to encounter him, her chances of winning would be very, very low. Jiang Lan shook her head slightly and laughed at herself. "I'm also a little upset. Tremor Punch is still okay. With the inheritance and guidance, it's not too exaggerated to master it in half a year. But the core force of the Ice Sect is enough to make many professional 8th Pin Dan stage fighters envious. Isn't it always difficult to grasp the essence and charm of a visualization diagram? Just by mastering meditation, there shouldn't be any obvious advantage." Her tremor punch was self-created. She gradually realized the mystery of it through constant practice with similar martial arts. Then she spent the points of the Martial Artist Association to ask for guidance on the key points of visualization. After a year, she finally created her own tremor punch. With the realm of Dan stage where the strength of the whole body was integrated into one, the subtle control of the muscles was not difficult for her. As for force, it was a low-level type that did not require comprehension of a visualization diagram. It was not very useful even if it was mastered, just like the burning force of Hongluo Martial Arts School. In order to grasp the essence and charm of a visualization diagram, one had to be close to mastering meditation. In addition, there were 81 difficulties. Hearing Jiang Lan's words, Yi Yaoting's mood improved a lot. "I thought I was the only one who was upset. It turns out that Sister Lan was also shocked. Sigh, maybe he will even surpass me one day. Don't worry too much about this. Generally speaking, the faster you advance, the more time you need to settle down before you reach the threshold of Dan stage, unless you have the wisdom of previous lives." Jiang Lan comforted her, "But you have already touched the threshold of Dan stage, and are only one step away from mastering the meaning of withdrawal." Yi Yaoting pulled the hair hanging by her mouth childishly. Sister Lan, Sister Lan, Sister Lan, you don't have to comfort me. You know that I'm a little heartless, and I'll recover in the blink of an eye. Besides, it's not a bad thing to be provoked at this time. In the past, I was always in the limelight among the warriors of the same age. Not only was I born with divine strength, but my cultivation level was also very fast. I was always able to suppress the majority of people. That's why I was a little conceited and a little arrogant. But now, with a comparison, it hurts me, it sets me off. I realized that I was originally nothing. If I want to go further, then I have to calm down and calm down." Jiang Lan nodded thoughtfully. "This may be a good thing for you." At 10:30 on Saturday morning, in the train to Donglin City. Sitting next to Yanjika, Lu Cheng and Yanjika were chatting about the latest hot news, dutifully playing the role of an onlooker, flirting with each other from time to time. Just then, his cell phone made a ding sound. He picked it up and saw a delightful message, 20,000. 00 yuan has been transferred to your savings card ending with XXXX. Current balance is 25,813. 74. The broadcasting bonus is in my account. Lu Qing put his phone in front of Yanjika, without any intention of hiding the specific amount of his private savings. After the lot drawing ceremony, the organizing committee had distributed the broadcasting bonus to each participating team. But Songqing University maintained its usual style of procrastination in administrative affairs. It wasn't until Friday afternoon that the accounting was completed and the finance department went to the bank. Martial arts bonuses like this were generally calculated after tax, and the organizing committee would withhold income tax. I haven't arrived yet. Yenjika frowned her long black eyebrows and said, half surprised and half puzzled. Maybe the bank is different, and it's the weekend, so it can't be so timely. Lu Qing guessed the reason. Maybe the school's finance department went to several banks at an awkward time, so some of them were transferred in time, while others had to wait until Monday. Maybe there was a system delay in his text message. It's okay. Yenjika pursed her lips and smiled. She couldn't hide the curiosity in her eyes as she glanced at Lu Cheng's phone screen. Cheng only had a little more than 5,000 yuan left in his private savings. I can't let him book such an expensive hotel next time I travel. Yeah, I'll take the initiative to invite him on a date tomorrow. I have my own private savings too. Receiving the bonus in time before the competition was a big incentive for Lu Qing. It made him less nervous and more eager to fight. If he could beat Donglin's squad and enter the semi-finals, there would be more bonuses. After 2.5 hours, at 12:15 noon, the martial arts club arrived at Donglin North Station. They saw the organizing committee staff and a minibus coming to pick them up. Seeing this, Sun Jian and the others immediately recalled their experience in Yimo. They asked fearfully, how many live spectators are there this time? The terrifying atmosphere in Yimo was like it was going to swallow all challengers. Not many, I guess. The staff thought for a while and said, the competition is in Wenqing School's dojo, halfway up the mountain. At most a few hundred people can sit. Phew. Li Mao exhaled and smiled at Sun Jian, Lin Hua and the others before settling down. Boarding the minibus, Yenjika looked out of the window with a clean face and suddenly sighed. When I watched professional martial arts competitions in the past, I especially liked and envied those hardcore fans who would follow the team to the away games. Without waiting for her to finish, Lu Qing already knew what she meant. He leaned close to her head and looked out of the window. This can't be rushed. The martial arts club has just risen again. Everyone doesn't have such deep feelings. It takes 5 hours to go back and forth by train. I used to think that after I graduate from university and earn some money, I'll follow the Longhu Club a few times during my holidays. That kind of atmosphere and feeling would be great. People came and went outside the window, but most of them didn't feel like students. You might be too embarrassed to do that after you graduate from university. Yenjika thought of a fun scene and smiled deeply with her dimples. If people find out that a team or club's leading player is a follower of the Longhu Club, it will be very interesting. As long as Qing could successfully advance to dance stage in university, with his Frost Force and Thunder Roar Zen, he could be the main force in the third level of the North-South Division competition. If he improved faster than that and reached the level of Peng Liyun and Renli, maybe he would directly go to the Wiyue Club or the Longhu Club and be trained as a reserve talent. It will also be very embarrassing. Lu Qing thought seriously and said. But now I can make money without graduation. If there is a chance, I can ask Ku to give it a try. She seems to be very interested. Moreover, in another year, little Wantan will graduate from high school and the Longhu Club Forum will organize a meetup. It is very likely that they will arrange to watch the competition together. As he spoke, his gaze suddenly froze, because he saw a few familiar figures. Isn't the guy walking out of the station Kai Xiaoming? He is followed by Zhao Chang, Qiu Zhigao, Zhang Jingye and his girlfriend Wu Qian, and Wu Qian's 3 roommates. Look over there. Lu Qing patted Yenjika's shoulder. Yenjika stared at him and asked in a daze, your roommates? She knew Kai Zhongming and Qiu Zhigao. At this time, Kai Songming and Zhao Chang seemed to have noticed their gazes and looked over. They waved their hands happily and made a gesture of cheering. Do they count as our first group of fans? Yenjika's eyes sparkled and she laughed in a low voice. Lu Qing answered seriously and sincerely, I think they are taking the opportunity to make friends with their roommates, with the excuse of following the martial arts club to Donglin and cheering for them. They invited their roommates to play in a different place and make friends with them. How clever. I have been roommates for almost a year. How can I not know what they are thinking? This must be Xiaoming's idea. The car drove away. Lu Qing and the others gradually moved away from Kai Zongming and his roommates. After half an hour's drive and lunch, they arrived at the foot of Wenqing Mountain at 2 in the afternoon. Then the minibus went up the mountain road. It took them 40 minutes to reach the mountainside and the main gate of the Wenqing School's training hall. At 3:30, the competition would start on time. Is this another kind of home field advantage? Yenjika got off the bus, breathed in the fresh mountain air, and looked up. Lu Qing also noticed and nodded solemnly, yes. Wenqing School didn't deliberately create a home field atmosphere like Yimo. They chose to wait at ease. From the new campus of Songqing University to here, he and the others had spent a total of nearly 6 hours. Although they had caught up on sleep in the car midway, the effect was not very good. Except for himself, the others could be said to be completely fatigued from the journey, and their combat strength had unknowingly weakened by a lot. We should have left last night and stayed in Donglin City for one night. It's normal that we didn't think of this because we don't have much experience. Why didn't Master remind us? Why didn't he make arrangements in advance? Gizershur walked out of the bus, feeling refreshed. He stretched his body, coughed twice and said, that's right. Let's go in. Is it easy for me to be an undercover agent? She was worried that Zhou Xingquan would lose more cleanly than Wei Xingtian. She paused and asked half curiously, Sister Lan, do you think it's possible that Lin Ke has entered the Danqi state? It's not that easy to reach the Danqi stage. Jiang Lan laughed. Lin Ke only grasped the meaning of withdrawal at the end of March. Up until now, it has been less than 2 months. Speaking of those painstaking efforts, he can't finish them. It took me 7 months to grasp the meaning of withdrawal and step into the Danqi state. No matter how talented he is, he can't build a tall building from scratch without 3 or 4 months of foundation. I see. Yi Yaoding nodded thoughtfully. Then Wenqing School has a better chance of winning. Junior brother Ho, senior sister Zhua and senior sister Li are all strong 9th pin fighters. Especially the former, she didn't dare to say that she could win for sure. In the away team locker room, Gizershur noticed that Li Mao, Sun Jian and the others looked tired. He let out a sigh and attracted everyone's attention. Little Yen, what strategy do you think Donglin squad will use? How will they line up? He pointed at Yenjika with a smile. Don't be shy. Analyze it for us. That's right. Coach Yen, why don't you say something? Guiqing couldn't help laughing. Yenjika was confused and bewildered by the crowd's laughter. Her pretty face turned pink, but she didn't decline and said generously, I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. Donglin squad must have seen the video of our match with Fearless Squad. They will definitely find a way to restrain Lu Cheng's abnormal physical strength. Speaking of her boyfriend's abnormal physical strength, she couldn't help but laugh. Then she despised herself in her mind. Yenjika, if this was a speech, there would be no way to save your laughter. You weren't like this before. Lu Qing put on an innocent expression and mouthed silently, what's so funny about this? Yenjika glanced at him, took a deep breath, and continued seriously, it's hard for them to determine the order of our battle, so they can't arrange Zhou Xingquan, an 8th pin Dan stage fighter, according to the order of Lu Qing and Lin Quebec. I think they'll compromise and let Zhou Jingquan be the second to fight. In this way, if we fight Lin Ke first, he will fight with Shui Yanjun, Li Xingnan and Hou Yu, 3 strong professional 9th pin fighters. If there are no accidents, it will be difficult for him to win quickly. That is to say, he will consume a lot of energy. And if he faces Zhou Jingquan in such a state, it's hard to say if he can open up the situation for Lu Qing. Once Lu Qing faces Zhou Jingquan, who is almost in perfect condition, no matter how good his physical strength is, he can't show it. If Lu Qing goes first, with his abnormal physical strength, he may be able to challenge Zhou Jingquan in his best condition and create a chance for Lin Ke to win. But Lin Ke's physical strength is only average. After a fierce battle with a Dan stage fighter, what are his chances of winning against the remaining strong professional 9th pin fighter of Donglin squad? But we still have senior Sun Jian behind us, so we still have a chance. Listening to Yan Zhike's detailed explanation, Sun Jian, Li Mao and the rest nodded slightly. This was indeed the strategy that the Donglin battle team was most likely to adopt. Although it was a moderate strategy, it was effective enough. Besides, they also silently complained, although we all know that Yan Zhike is Lu Cheng's girlfriend, don't show too obvious bias when you analyze. Don't always say that Lin Ke's physical strength is ordinary. Abnormal people like Qing are abnormal. Are you bullying a single dog? Be careful not to affect the harmonious, lively, stable and united situation of the martial arts club. Feeling everyone's meaningful gaze and her cousin's inexplicable gaze, Yan Zhike couldn't help but reach out to touch her slightly hot cheeks. Was my analysis just now wrong? Why is everyone else so inexplicable except Qing? She restrained her doubts and finally added, in addition, we have to pay attention to Hou Yu. He maintained an undefeated record in the previous group matches. At most, he took the initiative to quit because of excessive physical strength consumption. He hasn't shown his limit yet. In other words, no one knew whether Hou Yu had 1 or 2 more hidden skills compared to last year. And these were all things that Yan Zhike and Lu Qing had discussed in private. Good analysis. Geezer Shi nodded and smiled. Coach Shi, I have one more thing. Yan Zhike raised her hand to report, blushing. She accidentally forgot it just now. So embarrassing. Go ahead. Geezer Shi nodded with a smile. Yan Zhike quickly added, the unique skills of the water sect are particular about nourishment and endurance. The martial arts derived from it all have the characteristics of good endurance. I believe that Wenqing School's fly-fall punch is no exception. Yes, fly-fall punch does have this characteristic. Zhou Jingquan can be said to be quite good at restraining the 8th pin Dan stage. Since Yan Zhike had discovered the blind spot that he had deliberately hidden, Geezer Shi didn't mind explaining. However, both Lin Ke and Lu Qing have improved a lot compared to when they went to Yimo. You don't have to worry too much about this. What's our main problem? Geezer Shi chuckled. Yes, except for the 2 leading players, the substitutes are relatively weak. If it weren't for Wenqing School's pride and the fact that they thought they could win under normal circumstances and didn't apply for a special competition format in advance, how could we have any hope? Sun Jian, Li Mao, Yan Zhike, and the others were embarrassed by his words. But it's not even a year of special training. It's good that you can improve so fast. As an elder, Geezer Shi comforted Li Mao warmly after giving him a lesson on setbacks. Li Mao, you've been getting better at still stance lately. It won't be long before you enter the entry level. At that time, with your physical fitness, it should be easy for you to reach the level of amateur first pin. Try to reach the level of professional 9th pin before November this year. Hearing Coach Shi's affirmation, Li Mao felt inexplicably excited and moved. Although he did think that he had gotten a feel for the still stance recently, he was still the kind of person who lacked confidence and dared not be blindly happy. He had always been nervous until Geezer Shi's words calmed him down and made him feel a little more certain. As for you, Yen. Gizershur looked at Yen Jike. After 2 or 3 months of training, your physical quality will be improved to the level where you can withstand the internal training method. Remember to ask for one from your family and try to reach the level of professional 9th pin before November. Yes, yes. Yenjika pursed her lips and nodded like a chicken pecking rice. Her eyes were shining brightly. Thinking that she was getting closer and closer to the level of professional 9th pin, the girl couldn't hide her excitement. Lu Cheng's Thunder Roar Zen was not only a fighting method, but also an internal training method. With this method, one could practice martial arts into one's bones and body. The meteor force of the Ji family also included a similar part. The reason why Yen Jike didn't use it was because her body hadn't reached that level yet. If she forced herself to practice it, it would only hurt her internal organs. Lu Cheng was also taught Thunder Roar Zen at the beginning of this semester. Guiqing, you've practiced mountain moving fist very well and you have some talent. In the next semester, not to mention Yen and Li Mao, there is still hope for you to reach the level of amateur first pin. Sun Jian, if you and Lin Hua insist on participating in the special training in the next 2 semesters, there is still hope for you to get the certificate of professional 9th pin before graduation. Gizershur commented one by one and took the opportunity to educate them. In the end, he looked at Lu Qing and Lin Ke and said with a smile, as for the order of appearance, don't worry so much. Don't forget our original goal. We are here to practice in actual combat. Last time, Lin Ke challenged an intact 8th pin Dan stage fighter. So this time, it's Lu Cheng's turn. As he spoke, his face became serious. Lu Cheng, you're the first to fight today. Lu Cheng took a deep breath and said loudly, okay. What would it be like to face an intact 8th pin Dan stage fighter? Chapter 203. Wenqing School, in the locker room of the home team. Sect leader Anai Mingfei was wearing an ancient-style practice suit. He stroked his beard and said, I won't say more. Xingquan, you're the second to fight. Do your best. Yes, master. Zhou Xingquan nodded calmly. Anai Mingfei looked at Hou Yu, who seemed to be restless. Xiaoya, you're the first to fight. Both Lin Ke and Lu Qing are very good opponents. Do your best and see how far you are from the top of the professional 9th pin. Hearing this, Hou Yu stopped all his restlessness and liveliness. He said solemnly, yes, master. In the live broadcast room of Donglin TV station, the host Wang Tian interrupted the guest Lin Maoxing and said with a smile, the front office has sent back the list of fighters and the order. Donglin team has Hou Yu, Zhou Xingquan, and Zhui Yanjun. Songqing University Martial Arts Club has Lu Qing, Lin Ke, and Sun Jian. That is to say, the first fight is between Hou Yu and Lu Qing. Hou Yu versus Lu Qing. Yan Shaoling moved the video window so that it was separated from the live post in the forum and focused more attention on the fight. The list of fighters was fixed, which meant that the fight could start at any time. With Kai Zhongming leading the way, Zhang Jingye, Wu Qian, and the others hurriedly entered the training hall of Wenqing School. They were unfamiliar with the place, so they wasted a lot of time before finding the competition venue halfway up the mountain. They almost missed the beginning. As soon as they crossed the threshold, they were shocked by the solemn and quiet atmosphere. They thought they had gone to the wrong place and were stunned for a moment. They looked around until they found Lu Qing and the others coming out of the locker room and sitting in the reserved seats. Then they settled down and breathed a sigh of relief. It feels weird. Wu Qian whispered in Zhang Jingye's ear. This made him very depressed and uncomfortable. It was completely different from the excitement he expected to vent his feelings. In order to cheer for the team this time, Zhang Jingye had crammed some martial arts knowledge, but he still didn't understand the strangeness of Wenqing School's home ground. He could only explain, different home grounds have different characteristics. A cool wind blew through the mountain, making him shiver involuntarily. He felt like this place was like a tomb that had awakened ancient zombies. It was too old and too cold. Kai Zhongming coughed twice to draw back the attention of Zhao Qiang and the others. With the subtle feeling of leading a group of elementary school students on a trip, he led them to an empty seat and sat down. At this time, the referee stepped into the ring. After looking at both sides, he said in a clear voice, "In the quarterfinals of Songqing Division, Donglin Squad vs Songqing University Martial Arts Club. The first round, Hou vs Lu Qing." Lu Qing took off his coat calmly and high-fived Yan Zhike, who was beside him. "Don't be careless." Yan Zhike reminded him with bright eyes. Lu Qing smiled. "Don't worry." He mouthed the words, "Coach Yan." He and Yan Zhike had discussed the issue of Hou many times. Seeing his girlfriend smile, he high-fived everyone along the way and shouted a slogan. Only then did he turn around and walk along the road, walking towards the ring under the gazes of the silent audience. "Come on, Lu Qing." Kai Zhongming shouted subconsciously. He didn't fit in with the surrounding atmosphere, which made him feel like he was an idiot. He couldn't help blushing and whispered to himself, "This is King embarrassing." Hearing this lonely cheer, Yan Zhike, Guiqing, Lin Hua and the others looked at each other, stood up from their seats and shouted in unison, "Come on, Lu Qing." This was the tacit understanding and feelings of the martial arts club gradually condensed in the previous months. With the response, Kai Zhongming was no longer embarrassed. He raised his hands and shouted, "Come on, Lu Qing. Why care about others' gazes?" With him as an example, Wu Qian, Zhang Jingye and the others gradually plucked up their courage and made the shape of a trumpet with their hands. "Come on, Lu Qing." Their voices echoed and encouraged each other. They gradually integrated into the group and shouted more and more enthusiastically, echoing with Yan Zhike and the others, breaking the quiet and old-fashioned atmosphere. There weren't many people, but they were firm enough. The audience in formal clothes were a little restless, as if they thought it would be more stupid to do nothing. So they applauded reservedly. In the messy applause, Lu Qing stepped into the ring with a smile, warmed by the cheers of Yan Zhike and Kai Zhongming. Opposite him, Hou shook his legs and scratched the side of his head, smiling sincerely, "You are very strong. I'm a little nervous. Can you not talk to me?" Lu Qing laughed involuntarily and nodded graciously, "Okay." Sure enough, he is a child under 18. He thought like an old man. During the 3-minute conversation, in the live broadcast room of Donglin TV station, the guest Lin Maoxing smiled slightly and said, "I've checked the information. Lu Qing is already a professional 9th pin fighter. Every time you introduce him, you don't have to emphasize that although he has no rank, he has surpassed most of the professional 9th pin fighters. There was a time when I thought Lu Qing would try his best to develop his supernatural ability and find a chance to participate in the ranking event of professional 8th pin after his body had been tempered to the current limit. Then he would directly become a professional 8th pin fighter." The host Wang Tian also sighed with emotion. "Coach Lin, do you think Hou has a chance to defeat Lu Qing?" Lin Maoxing thought for a while and said, "The hope is not big. But Hou is a seedling that Wenqing School focuses on. He must have something special. If Lu Qing underestimates his opponent, he may suffer some losses, which will have a great impact on the final result of the competition." Wang Tian nodded slightly and said, "Coach Lin is right. Our reporter has interviewed several disciples of Wenqing School and found that they are, inexplicably confident about Hou." While they were explaining, in Lu Cheng's fan forum, Brahman said, twisting with arms akimbo expression, "These people are so unprofessional. Little Dragon is the best. He found out that our idol got a professional 9th pin certificate on the same day." Unparalleled Dragon King said in a daze, "When did I become Little Dragon? Are you going to call me Little Loach in the future? Besides, if you know his name and domicile, you can check it on the official website. After hanging out with girls like Brahman, Eternal Nightfall, and Wonton Seller for a long time, he felt that his mentality had become younger. Sometimes he would inadvertently act cute while talking. The internet is really scary. Little dragon, little dragon, little dragon, how many moves do you think our Lu Qing can beat this monkey? Yan Shaoling asked excitedly. Unparalleled Dragon King replied with a scornful expression, don't underestimate any professional ninth pin. If there is no unexpected thing, it will be very difficult for Lu Qing to win quickly. Oh, I understand. Yan Shaoling didn't feel offended and didn't mind exposing her IQ in this aspect. In the arena, Lu Qing kept his promise and didn't disturb Hou Yu. He adjusted himself to the best state and finally considered the next fighting strategy. During this process, he vaguely felt a sense of oppression and anxiety, as if a storm was about to come. Lu Qing felt that this was not because of Hou Yu, but because of Zhou Jingquan, who was the second to fight. Outsiders only knew that his stamina was limitless and he was not afraid of taking turns to fight, but they didn't know that his energy was limited. Thunder Roar Zen was okay, but he could only use Frost Force 3 times. If too much energy was consumed by Hou Yu, then when he faced Zhou Jingquan, it was very likely that he wouldn't be able to create the best chance for his brother-in-law to win. I must try to save energy in this fight with Hou Yu. And the best way to save energy is to go all out without holding back and try to win in 4 or 5 moves. Lu Qing took a breath and the ripples in his heart gradually stopped and the water condensed into ice. The referee looked at the electronic clock, raised his right hand and waved it down heavily. Start. Lu Qing was like a sprinter who heard the starting gun. The power that he had been accumulating for a long time burst out. He stamped his feet, straightened his bent knees, and quickly rushed to Hou Yu like a cloud leopard hunting for prey. He knew that in addition to fly-fall punch, Hou Yu also specially visited a famous teacher and learned monkey form kung fu, which was very good at dodging. Therefore, he didn't directly prepare Frost Force and Thunder Roar Zen. If he missed, wouldn't it be a waste of energy? Facing Lu Cheng's attack, Hou Yu swayed his body like a flexible monkey. He flashed to the side of Lu Qing and suddenly and quickly kicked out his right leg. At this moment, Lu Cheng's spine bounced, his waist and back wriggled, and his center of gravity swayed like mercury. He unexpectedly changed his direction in a split second and made Hou Yu's kick hit nothing. He immediately visualized rolling lead clouds in his mind and compressed the corresponding muscles one after another. He turned his waist and back and shook out his right arm like a hammer. Thunder Roar Zen. Hou Yu's face slightly changed. He suddenly fell back and did 3 somersaults in a row. Not only did he pull away from Lu Qing, but he also firmly maintained his center of gravity. Lu Qing didn't show any mercy. He exerted strength under his feet and crushed the black bricks. He chased after Hou Yu. Although you somersaults are fast, you can't be faster than me. Just when Hou Yu stopped, Lu Qing had already caught up with him. He tightened the muscles of his palm, forearm, and upper arm and swung his left fist. The second move of Thunder Roar Zen. Chapter 204. The strong wind blew and Hou Yu's pupils suddenly shrank. His sight was occupied by Lu Cheng's figure. He felt that he had nowhere to hide from Lu Cheng's swinging left fist. At this critical moment, he curled up his body like an agile monkey and squatted down to dodge Lu Cheng's Thunder Roar Zen. Then, he put his left hand behind his hip and reached out his right hand to grab the enemy's crotch at lightning speed. Monkey steals peach, evading and attacking at the same time. It wasn't that Lu Qing hadn't used similar moves before, but they were all improvised. He hadn't specifically practiced them, so the subsequent connection was quite rough. However, the peach stealing of the monkey shape was the result of countless years of hard work by countless generations of martial artists. The slightest carelessness in response would put him in danger in the subsequent changes. He was shocked, and the thunder roar Zen in his left hand burst out as usual, hitting the void and creating circles of invisible ripples. With the help of the subtle recoil, the bounce of the spine and the change of the center of gravity, he forcibly pulled his body and dodged to the side. Then he tightened his thighs and kicked Hou-Yu, who was still squatting on the ground. Hou-Yu didn't succeed in stealing the peach, so he immediately pressed down his left hand behind his back and jumped out with ease. He easily avoided Lu Cheng's kick and showed one of the changes of Monkey Steal's peach vividly. Taking advantage of this opportunity, he came close to Lu Cheng. He put strength in his abdomen, connected the fascia of his body, shook out his right arm and hit Lu Cheng at an extremely fast speed, leaving no time for Lu Cheng to prepare the tremor punch. Lu Cheng was not in a hurry. He put his arm up to block steadily and borrowed some strength. But at this moment, the strength in Hou-Yu's shoulder exploded. He clenched his left hand into a fist and punched out, faster than Lu Cheng's counterattack and faster than his return. Fly-fall punch, continuous. The gurgling water flowed continuously. The core of this style of fighting was to abandon the use of both feet and purely use the muscles, joints, and fascia of the corresponding parts to make a move. The power of this style was definitely not as powerful as the former, but it was faster and more compact. Hou-Yu hoped to disrupt Lu Cheng's rhythm of tensing up the muscles or preparing the ice sect force. Win by speed. Seeing Hou-Yu's left fist coming fast, Lu Cheng took a breath, put his right arm up, lowered his waist and put strength in his feet. Bang! Just as the two of them clashed, he straightened his knees and turned his back. Most of his muscles trembled as he sent out a strong swing force. Hou-Yu suddenly felt that he was sitting on the rotary flying chair of the amusement park, and his body involuntarily flew to the side. He quickly adjusted his center of gravity in midair. As soon as he landed, he executed his footwork and fled forward like an agile monkey. Lu Cheng took large strides, pouncing and catching up. In a few steps, he had already caught up to him. His muscles, tendons, and internal organs changed accordingly. In his mind, he visualized a surging river. His Thunder Roar Zen might not be able to affect Hou-Yu too much within 1 or 2 strikes, so his Frost Force was much safer. If he didn't take advantage of this opportunity to make this monkey stiffen up and allow it to jump around again, his energy consumption would be even greater. Feeling the breath close behind him, Hou-Yu suddenly stomped his feet like 2 iron nails firmly nailed to the ground. His body turned around and swung his waist and back. In his mind, he visualized mountains and lakes that were constantly accumulating. Splash! The embankment of the lake collapsed, and the flood poured down in a terrifying manner. It affected the corresponding muscles and tendons of Hou-Yu's body, so that he punched out both of his fists fiercely. His punch not only had a terrifying impact, but also had the power to slap the enemy and the swing force to throw the enemy away. It was actually a combination of several kinds of force exertion skills, which was really a high-level fist art. Fly-fall punch, dam break. Lu Cheng was so confident that he didn't dodge. Instead, he activated the cold current in his body and froze the surging river in his mind. Instantly, the waves became crystal clear, and the cold current turned into a tide. Frost Force. Bang! Hou-Yu's punches were very skillful. They didn't hit left and right, but left and right. Combined with the momentum of the flood breaking the dam, they dispersed part of the cold force and threw Lu Cheng away. However, his body trembled as if a cold wind came from inside. His lips instantly turned blue, and his arms were obviously stiff. He didn't take the opportunity to counterattack. Thump! 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 He heard his own violent heartbeat and felt the blood gushing to his torso and limbs. I'm alive. For a moment, he actually had such a feeling. This was the result after he dispersed part of the cold force by himself. It's really terrible. After being thrown away, Lu Qing stretched his body in the air and landed steadily. Then he took a step forward, stepped on the bricks, and turned around to launch a strong attack again. He wanted to take advantage of his opponent's cold and stiff body to force him to fight head-on. Facing this, Hou Yu seized the last moment, took a deep breath, and made a humming sound. He shook his muscles, fascia, and internal organs with the internal training method, and dissolved part of the cold. When Lu Qing was about to come close, he lifted his leg and dodged nimbly. The two people, one chasing and the other escaping, kept changing their positions on the field, like a tiger trying to catch an ape. During this process, Lu Qing found an opportunity from time to time to use Thunder Roar Zen, but the result was that his opponent dodged again and again with his weird and flexible body movements. In the guest team seats, Yenjika slightly frowned her soft and beautiful eyebrows and said to herself, "Why do I feel something is wrong?" Gizershur beside her said leisurely, "He fought too hastily." "Ah." Yenjika turned her head blankly. Gizershur laughed and said, "After a life-and-death battle, you know that you have to go all out at any time. This is a good thing, but you also need to know how to judge the situation. No standard is suitable for all situations. Facing an opponent like Hou Yu, if you blindly pursue haste and fierceness, you will get half the result with twice the effort." You can try to recall how many tremor punches he had missed. Yenjika suddenly understood, but her eyebrows were still furrowed. She clearly remembered that in the discussion a few days ago, the enemies she and Qing had deduced the most was Hou Yu, besides Zhou Jingquan. The agreed fighting strategy was to focus on oneself, not to compete with Hou Yu's body movements, but to seize the opportunity to use mercurial balance to block the follow-up changes and attack him at close range. But now Qing is very impatient. Is there any change in the field that I don't see, so Qing has to be like this? Is it Hou Yu's trump card? In the arena, after a while of chasing and fighting, Hou Yu, who was still affected by the frost force and consumed a lot of strength, gradually showed a little delay. Lu Qing shook his center of gravity and changed his direction continuously to block. Finally, Hou Yu was half a beat slower and his opponent was in front of him. Lu Qing took a step forward with his left foot, guarding against the opponent's monkey steals the peach. His right arm tightened and compressed the corresponding muscles, and with the thunder in his mind, he blasted out a tremor zen. This time, he had enough confidence and follow-up changes to make his opponent unable to dodge. Hou Yu suddenly stopped, with a rare solemn expression. He lowered his waist, stabilized his center of gravity, and the corresponding muscles of his body suddenly contracted. In his mind, streams of water continued to gather and rise. In the end, they accumulated a mighty force and rushed down from the cliff. They fiercely hit the ground and splashed fiercely. Fly fall punch, waterfall. This was a rather difficult fighting style to master. It was similar to the tremor punch. This was a killing move that Hou Yu had barely learned in the past 6 months, and he had been waiting to try it today. Bang! Lu Qing and Hou Yu's fists collided, and there seemed to be circles of shock waves in the air. Both of them felt that their muscles and fascias were shaking and trembling. Hou Yu, who had been prepared, wriggled his abdomen and made a humming sound to barely stop the shock. He seized the opportunity and rushed forward, throwing out a punch. Flying fall straight. At the critical moment, Lu Qing, who had been guarding against Hou Yu's trump card, suddenly exhaled and made a sound like thunder in his abdomen, creating a reverse shock and counteracting most of the impact. His muscles wriggled and his spine straightened. When Hou Yu's fist was about to hit him, he bounced back and stepped back steadily and orderly, calmly avoiding the blow. Then he stepped forward, swung his left arm, visualized a thundercloud, and hammered down fiercely. Hou Yu had no time to dodge, so he could only forcibly raise his arms to resist. Bang! Under the thunder roar zen, his body seemed to be beaten to the ground, and his qi and blood were rolling fiercely. Lu Qing would not give him any chance to dodge, so he unreasonably swung his arms and hammered again and again. Bang! 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 Hou Yu was dizzy, and his qi and blood rushed to his throat. He staggered and barely held on with his last bit of willpower. Lu Qing stopped the thunder roar then and stopped in front of his opponent. Hou Yu's eyes were blank, and his legs were weak. He fell to the ground without any external force and kept retching. Phew, finally won. Lu Qing exhaled a mouthful of foul air, and his mind was a little clearer. He felt the heat flow from the Jin Dan, soothing the tiredness of his body, and also felt a little empty in his head. In the guest team seats, Yenjika stood up happily with her fists clenched. Then she thought of the videos she had watched before. Most of the strong fighters who fought with Hou Yu did not choose to fight steadily, but to attack fiercely, just like Qing. Could it be? Her heart stirred as she thought of a certain possibility. Could it be that Hou Yu had a supernatural ability that could make his opponent irritable? Lu Qing rubbed his temple subconsciously, and also felt something was wrong. At the beginning, he had expected to go all out without holding back. Once there was a chance, he would not hesitate to use the Frost Force to finish Hou Yu quickly and save more energy. However, the more he fought, the more anxious he became. He even fought with Hou Yu's strong points, and missed several thunder roars then. The consumption was much greater than expected. He sobered up and recalled what happened before. Suddenly, he grasped the feeling of depression and impatience that he had felt at the very beginning. This is not normal. Can Hou Yu affect my mood? Lu Qing narrowed his eyes and could not help but look at Hou Yu, who was being helped down the stage. He saw that Hou Yu's legs were like noodles, and he could not stand steadily. At the same time, he also saw Zhou Jingquan take off his coat and calmly walk to the arena. Chapter 205. Lu Qing wins the first round. As the referee's voice reverberated, Guiqing, Lin Hua and the others in the away team seats were all excited for Lu Qing's victory. Let's see how far Qing can go in the fight with Zhou Jingquan. Sun Jian said with joy and expectation. Li Mao nodded and said, yeah, in their eyes, Lu Qing was famous for his abnormal physical strength. Taking turns to fight him would be useless. As long as he could defeat Hou Yu, he would be able to face the professional 8th Pin Dan Stage Mighty One in his best condition. Feeling the high spirits of her companions, Yenjika bit her lower lip and said nothing. Others thought that as long as Qing was not defeated, he would be able to face the challenges of the following opponents in perfect condition. However, she knew clearly that Qing also had his limits. After the tremor massage and the ranking event, she found a chance to ask him about it. She knew that his physical strength was indeed abnormal, more than 10 times or even dozens of times that of ordinary people. However, his energy and spirit were not the same. Relying on meditation, he was only 3 or 4 times stronger than fighters of the same rank, which was still human. After such a battle, he would not be relaxed now. She thought of his perseverance in massaging her with the tremor force. She thought of his tiredness when he fell asleep as soon as his head hit the pillow. She thought of her own heartache and heartbeat at that time. She thought of his kiss when he was brimming with warmth and passion. Her eyes were filled with tenderness and expectation. Lu Qing, come on, Lu Qing. In the stands, Kai Zongming, Zhang Jingye and other followers showed their joy and excitement without hiding. They ignored the unfriendly looks and vented their feelings to their heart's content. When Zhou Jingquan was about to enter the arena, they took a breather. Professional 8th Pin Dan Stage. Will Lu Qing be okay? Wu Qian asked worriedly. Her forehead was covered with sweat and her cheeks were flushed because of the intense shouting. As a college student who grew up in today's society, even if she seldom touched martial arts, she still knew the common sense of ranks. Zhang Jingye said with a bright smile, it's okay. Didn't I tell you? Cheng's physical strength is so freakish that he has no friends. Now he is like a beginner. Although he probably can't beat an 8th pin Dan stage fighter, at least he can create a lot of trouble for his opponent. Lin Ke will have an easier time later. Kai Zhongming and the others nodded, making the girls in the female dormitory even more excited. This is going to be a good show. Yi Yaoting changed her sitting posture and stared at the ring with great interest. She was the kind of person who craved for the whole world to be in chaos. Although Lu Qing had left her with a deep impression of defeat and a sense of frustration for not being a genius, and although Zhou Jingquan was a friend whom she called senior brother, she still hoped that there would be some unexpected excitement. She still hoped that both of them could fight to the death. Jiang Lan smiled faintly and sighed. With his stamina, little brother Zhou won't have it easy. Unfortunately, it was obvious that Lu Qing had not reached the peak of body refining. Otherwise, with such martial arts strength, coupled with the core force of the ice sect based on his supernatural ability and the continuous tremor punch, it was not impossible for him to defeat an 8th pin fighter of Dan stage. It was not impossible for him to fight for the certificate of professional 8th pin. Stepping into the Dan stage meant reaching rank 8, but rank 8 did not necessarily mean that one was in the Dan stage. In Lu Cheng's fan forum, Unparalleled Dragon King posted a post. Lu Cheng's fight just now was a bit strange. It was like he was trying to hit a mosquito with a hammer weighing thousands of pounds. Eternal Nightfall, Yan Shaoling replied with, Nike mouth, so what? Anyway, he won. With his stamina, what's the big deal about swinging a few times? I'm just saying it casually. Lu Qing used to be very talented in fighting. This shouldn't happen. Unparalleled Dragon King was not angry at the little girl's rebuke. I don't care. I don't care. Anyway, he won. Yan Shaoling replied firmly. Brahmin, who was watching the match attentively, also said, that's right. Who doesn't perform well on the spot sometimes? And his coach is super awesome. He will definitely give him a summary after the match. Unparalleled Dragon King could only send a what else can I say emoji. Little dragon, to what extent do you think my idol and that Zhou what you want fight? Brahmin asked lively. Unparalleled Dragon King thought for a while and said, Lu Cheng's stamina is definitely at its peak. Even if he can't win against an 8th pin of Dan stage, it won't be easy for him to win. He will have to pay a certain price. And the longer the fight drags on, the better it will be for him. Ha, little dragon, you are such a good guy. Brahmin generously sent a good guy card. In the seats of a Wenqing school, seeing Hou Yu being supported back, Zhui Yanjun couldn't help but sigh, little monkey, what a pity. Li Xingnan followed and said, sigh, if you didn't meet Lu Qing whose stamina is like a bug, but Lin Ke, you might have won. Using the monkey form to constantly distract the opponent and make him use his killing moves because of his impatience. This could be an effective way to deal with a top professional 9th pin fighter. Not necessarily. Hou Yu smiled bitterly and shook his head. My supernatural ability can only affect the opponent's mood, but it can't change their thinking. Other 9th pin fighters may be impatient, but they won't always use moves that consume a lot of energy. Speaking of this, he suddenly thought of Lu Qing just now. He felt that Lu Qing was like a bottomless sea. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't make him feel tired at all. In the end, he could still throw out tremor punch like a storm. It was terrifying. In the arena, Lu Qing took a breath to relieve the emptiness in his mind. Looking at Zhou Jingquan who was calmly walking up the stone steps, he started to think about his next move. He and Yan Zhike had discussed Zhou Jingquan's martial arts, strength, and characteristics many times, so he was quite familiar with them. After a brief recollection, the key points flashed in his mind. In view of this, Lu Qing decided to think from Zhou Jingquan's perspective. He wanted to see how Zhou Jingquan saw him. His most important impression of me must be that I have the supernatural abilities of flame and frost. With the latter, I have mastered one of the core forces of the ice sect. My physical strength is abnormal, and I am not afraid of taking turns to fight. I seem to be able to use tremor punch all the time. Thinking of this, Lu Cheng's heart suddenly jolted as he grasped a certain key point. His energy was limited, and he couldn't throw out tremor punch all the time. This was a secret that only he and Ku knew. Even his master only vaguely knew about it. In other words, in Zhou Jingquan's eyes, he was not tired at present, and it was impossible for him to be tired. Therefore, it was better to bluff and set up an empty fort strategy to create an opportunity to use the frost force. Lu Qing felt a little regretful that his severe warning was just a threshold and couldn't be applied in actual combat. Otherwise, there would be hope for him to turn the situation around. Of course, after the fight with Hou Yu, he had a new understanding of Zhou Jingquan. The water sect had the move of accumulating strength and erupting suddenly, while the Dan stage had the move of condensing the whole body's strength and erupting suddenly. The combination of the two may have an unexpected effect. Watching Zhou Jingquan's fights in the past 6 months, because he had never fought with a Dan stage fighter, and all of them were professional 9th pin fighters. This didn't show, but it didn't mean that it didn't exist. He had to be careful of this. While he was thinking, Zhou Jingquan, who had always maintained his composure, finally walked to the opposite side. He patted his dark martial arts suit, bent his legs, and leisurely made the starting gesture of fly-fall punch. Lu Qing put away all kinds of thoughts and put his body in the best condition again. This would be the first time he faced a complete 8th pin fighter. The referee raised his right hand, looked left and right, and then suddenly waved it down. Start. Chapter 206. Bang! When Zhou Jingquan's shoulder exploded, he swung out his left arm and hit Lu Cheng's fist. However, it was like hitting a bomb. He only felt a buzzing sound in his ears. The impact was abrupt, and the strong shock spread instantly. He felt like he jumped on the spot. His muscles, joints, and fascia were all trembling involuntarily. Tremor punch. His pupils shrank slightly and he took a short breath. Lu Qing was not going to let his opponent go. He straightened his back and tightened his left arm. He was going to swing his arm and hit continuously to create a more terrifying shock for the next Frost Force attack. He didn't want to give his opponent a chance to dodge. At this moment, he felt that with the short breath, Zhou Jingquan's rolling qi and blood, external strength, and living spirit seemed to be shrinking inward. The full outbreak of a mighty one of the Dan stage. Lu Qing thought. According to what he had experienced and observed before, he bounced his spine and took a step to the side to avoid the front. He didn't want to use Thunder Roar Zen to fight with his opponent head-on. In that way, although Zhou Jingquan would suffer more violent shock, his body would definitely be broken up or even fly out. If he was careless, he would be defeated and unable to further weaken his opponent. He had to endure the impulse and wait for the best opportunity. But when he stepped away, Zhou Jingquan's qi and blood stabilized. His abdomen wriggled and his mouth made a humming sound. The contraction and consolidation just now were like an illusion. The shock stopped quickly. Zhou Jingquan put on a leisurely smile, as if he was saying, "I was just fooling you." He straightened his knees and pounced on his opponent again. His speed and momentum were so fast that they almost turned into substance and pressed on Lu Cheng's heart. Lu Qing couldn't help but feel a little annoyed that the opportunity he had created with painstaking effort was so easily solved by his opponent. However, the negative feeling disappeared in a flash as the lake in his heart froze into ice. This was a bad thing, but also a good thing. At least it made Zhou Jingquan sure that he wasn't tired. Because of this, he had to be cautious and look for a better opportunity to delay the battle. The real one who cut off all means of retreat was like a wolf or a tiger. Once he found blood, he would pounce on it regardless of his own safety. Later, he would be able to surprise him with this. In the face of Zhou Jingquan's flood-like attack, Lu Qing calmly took a few steps back. During this process, he maintained his center of gravity and footwork with his superb control over his body, as if he had another pair of eyes in the back of his head. While Lu Qing kept retreating, Zhou Jingquan kept attacking. The distance between them was quickly narrowing. When Lu Qing had accumulated enough strength and momentum to launch a fierce counterattack, imitating Lin Kei's story of retreating in order to advance, Zhou Jingquan swung his center of gravity and sprung his spine. Without any hesitation, he circled to the side. His timing was perfect, giving Lu Qing the uncomfortable feeling of hitting cotton with 1,000 kilograms of force. The ability of the Dan stage, absolute reaction. Zhou Jingquan and Wei Xingtian had completely different fighting styles. What was effective for the latter might not work for the former, just like now. Lu Qing was once again pushed to the front by Zhou Jingquan. He was once again attacked by Zhou Jingquan's continuous momentum of fly-fall punch. Low kick, exploding shoulder, 1-inch punch, claw, and crushing punch burst out alternately. This time, Lu Qing learned to be smart. He calmed down and borrowed strength from the listening force. Instead of using his feet, he relied on the 24 blizzard strikes to cooperate with the corresponding body parts to make up for the disadvantage in strength and connection. Sometimes he pulled the fascias on both sides and quickly punched. Sometimes he swelled his back muscles to rebound and counterattack. Sometimes he outlined his abdominal muscles and borrowed strength to fight back. Gradually he grasped the meaning of 24 blizzard strikes and solved the flaws in his connection. The more he fought, the crazier, fiercer, and faster he fought. Bang bang bang. Bang bang bang. The two of them kept colliding in the small space, stirring up muffled sounds of fists hitting flesh and blood. At the end of the fight, Lu Qing deeply understood what it meant to have the strength of the Dan stage as one. Even if he tried his best, he couldn't stop the disadvantage from coming slowly. During this process, Zhou Jingquan, who was wearing a black martial arts suit, constantly changed the direction of his mercurial balance to create an uncomfortable change of rhythm. This was to prevent Lu Qing from being forced to compress and use tremor punch. At the same time, Zhou Jingquan dispersed the accumulated strength of his listening skill and disrupted the connection of 24 blizzard strikes. He displayed a martial arts foundation that was far superior to his opponent. Zhou Jingquan was not discouraged. He had only been practicing martial arts for half a year. Although he had undergone a complete transformation with the help of the Jin Dan and his own hard work, he was still far behind Zhou Jingquan in terms of details and experience, who had been practicing martial arts since he was a child and had been practicing martial arts for a long time. Only when you find the problem and the gap can you know how to make up for it. Who would be at full level at the beginning? Lu Qing was about to be defeated by the dripping water to penetrate the stone, and his opponent was about to defeat him in a way that didn't consume much energy. Suddenly, he stabilized his center of gravity and lowered his waist to sit in his crotch. He pushed his feet inward. When his arm touched Zhou Jingquan's fist, he suddenly turned his waist and back. His muscles and joints all opened up and threw out a strong swing force like a volcanic eruption. Zhou Jingquan's upper body immediately swung to the side, but his feet were firmly nailed to the original position. Crack! Obvious cracks appeared on the green brick where he was standing. His body fiercely bounced back. Lu Qing had expected this. He took the opportunity to visualize rolling thunderclouds and tightened and compressed the corresponding muscles. Bang! He stepped on the green brick with his feet and broke it. His two shoes collapsed and turned into fluttering butterflies. The strong rebound went all the way up through his ankle and knee joints. Lu Qing straightened his back and swung his right arm to punch Zhou Jingquan with the force of 1,000 pounds. Boom! The thunderclouds in his mind exploded and there seemed to be a burst of vibration. Facing this, Zhou Jingquan, who took the initiative to attack, didn't have time to dodge. He also visualized the accumulated water and the rising posture, completely integrating the rebound force into himself. Splash! The water current surged, flying straight down, hitting the ground, splashing up waves. Fly fall punch, waterfall. Bang! Circles of invisible ripples spread out from the place where the two fists met. Lu Cheng's qi and blood were surging, his muscles and joints were trembling obviously, and he felt like vomiting. But he was prepared. His abdominal muscles wriggled, and together with the thunder clouds in his mind, made a buzzing sound and counteracted most of the impact with a reverse vibration. Opposite him, Zhou Jingquan also neutralized the impact with a humming sound. After a pause, Lu Qing tightened the instep without shoes, turned his waist and whipped out a whip kick. Zhou Jingquan seemed to recover faster than him. He calmly bulged his thigh muscles and kicked at the right time to block. Bang! The two collided in the air, and suddenly a little bit of white frost condensed and disappeared in a flash. Zhou Jingquan felt a chill in his heart. He immediately felt the rolling cold wave penetrating his shoes, into his skin and into his blood, bringing a chill that made his body stiff. Ice sect force. His lips suddenly turned blue, and his eyes were full of surprise. Lu Qing retracted his right foot, bent his body and was about to shake out his arm. But in his mind, the crystal-clear river sealed thousands of miles away, locking the kinetic energy. The so-called force could not only be released through the hands. It had been more than a month since he defeated the Azure Dragon Squad. Although he didn't master the severe warning, he had practiced the frost force to his feet. Because his own special ability wasn't strong enough, if the cold wave passed through both his and the enemy's martial arts shoes, it would weaken to the point where the martial artist could withstand it. Therefore, he had taken the initiative to destroy his shoes just now, all for this unexpected kick. Zhou Jingquan's body was stiff for a short time. Seeing that Lu Qing was about to take advantage of his surprise attack, he couldn't wait for the next round. In an instant, his qi and blood, his spirit, his willpower, and his whole body's strength all contracted to his abdomen, as if condensing into a human body. Big Dan. Even the feeling of cold and stiffness was integrated into it. Lu Qing knew that he was about to face the explosive attack of a Dan stage master, but he didn't dodge. Instead, he calmly adjusted his body and reluctantly visualized the turbid river flowing in the ice field again. He didn't have the energy to wait any longer. He had to fight with his back to the river and cut off all means of retreat. The cold wave rushed and froze the river quickly. Even the falling waves were condensed into ice crystals. Everything seemed to be still. Lu Qing stepped on the ground, put strength in his waist and back, and pushed his shoulder, and threw out a cold punch. Frost force, cold wave tide. Boom! Zhou Jingquan's human body Big Dan exploded, spewing out a mighty force, dispelling the cold and driving away the stiffness. Bang! His right fist was like a flood that broke through a dam, striking out powerfully. Bang! Lu Qing was directly sent flying, and a layer of white frost condensed on Zhou Jingquan's right arm for a short time. Thump, 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 thump. Zhou Jingquan's heartbeats suddenly became so violent that even the audience at the side of the arena seemed to be able to hear it. Following that, his blood rushed out like a rushing river, breaking the ice layer and the stiffness. However, Lu Cheng's energy was already at its limit. He barely managed to successfully use the last frost force. Now that he was flying in the air, he wanted to adjust his muscles and regain his center of gravity as usual. He had more than enough strength but not enough heart. With a flop, he directly fell on the ground of the arena, which made Yan Zhika worried. Zhou Jingquan stepped forward. His body was a little slow, but he rushed to Lu Cheng's side before he turned over and stood up. Bang! He tightened his thighs and quickly whipped out. Lu Cheng barely raised his arms to block, but he was whipped out of his stance. Bang! Zhou Jingquan repeatedly kicked, not giving him a chance to breathe. The instep of his foot stopped at his neck. The second round, Zhou Jingquan wins. The referee raised his right hand. Lu Cheng took a breath and stood up steadily. He didn't show his actual tiredness. After slightly nodding as a greeting, he quickly turned around and walked out of the arena. Although his first Frost Force blocked Zhou Jingquan's martial arts shoes, and the second one was an arrow at the end of its flight, but the combination of the two could still beat a direct hit of the Frost Force. Of course, he couldn't give this professional eighth pin of the dance stage more time to recover. This could be considered to have accomplished the initial goal. In the guest team seats, Lin Ke took off his coat with a cold face and strode out. Chapter 207. In the stands, Yi Yaoting rested her chin on one hand and said with confusion, Lu Cheng's last choice was very reckless. Shouldn't he have retreated to avoid senior brother Zhou's explosive counterattack and patiently waited for the next opportunity? In that way, not only could he have successfully consumed senior brother Zhou's all-out attack, but he could have continued to weaken and hit the ice sect force again. However, he gave up the best choice and acted as if he had no way to retreat and no patience. He hurriedly added another ice force, which was really hard to understand. This was very inconsistent with her impression of him as someone who was good at improvisation. Without waiting for Jiang Lan's answer, Yi Yaoting suddenly thought of Lu Cheng's slightly impatient fighting style in the battle with Hou Yu. She connected the dots and felt that this was a change in the same vein. Then she remembered some words circulating in Wenqing's school and her private discussion with Jiang Lan. She suddenly understood and said in a low voice, "It's junior brother Hou's supernatural ability, right? Its influence actually lingered in this battle." "It's very possible," Jiang Lan said thoughtfully and then added, "but I don't think Lu Cheng's way of dealing with it is too big a problem." "Why?" Yi Yaoting blinked her eyes, looking puzzled. Jiang Lan smiled and explained, "Don't you think that little brother Zhou was so timid and overcautious just now?" "Sister Lan, you mean senior brother Zhou tried to defeat Lu Cheng with the least consumption? Is that wrong? There's still Lin Ke waiting behind." Yi Yaoting didn't think there was anything wrong with it. Jiang Lan sighed and said, "This may have something to do with the fact that he has only fought in the challenge tournament. According to my experience, the more you want to hold back, the more you want to defeat the enemy in the most economical and practical way, the more the loss will outweigh the gain." If junior brother Zhou had suppressed Lu Cheng with the continuous momentum and used all his strength at all costs, the result may be completely different. At that time, Lu Cheng would have no time to use the ice sect force. At most, he could use tremor punch. When little brother Zhou finds out that he only got a surprise attack of the ice sect force and an unnecessary outburst of his full strength, he will definitely change his fighting style. If Lu Cheng chooses to dodge this time, he may not have the chance to give little brother Zhou another hit of the ice sect force. In other words, it was a matter of opinion whether it was better to hit the opponent with the ice sect force one more time, or to let the opponent consume another burst of his full strength. Yi Yaoting nodded, not fully understanding. She reconsidered the battle just now. In the home team seats, Zhui Yanjun, Li Xingnan, and the others looked at Hou Yu in surprise and joy. "Junior brother Hou, your ability has improved again. Is it still affecting Lu Cheng's mood after so long?" Hou Yu was confused and said, maybe he belongs to the type that is more easily influenced." Although he didn't quite understand this development, at least it was still within reason. In the fan forum, when the camera switched to follow Lin Ke, Eternal Nightfall, Yan Shaoling said, "So angry. Why didn't they film him more during the broadcast?" I really want to see him back on the bench. Me too. Brahmin jumped out. Didn't you find a super beautiful substitute girl in Songqing University Martial Arts Club last time? I've always wanted to see if she had any interaction with Lu Qing. Is she Lu Cheng's girlfriend? If she is Lu Cheng's girlfriend, I can barely accept it. Yan Shaoling replied, full of fantasy. A talented man and a beautiful woman, together every day, one asking for advice, one practicing a set of moves, and there will be physical contact from time to time. Oh, it's like dry wood burning with fire, burning at the slightest touch. Brahmin replied, I can also accept it. After all, I'm still young. Who knows, there might be some rich and powerful love rivals. Then, Lu Cheng's martial arts will improve by leaps and bounds. Life is full of ups and downs. Don't bully a poor young man, Unparalleled Dragon King interrupted. What kind of novels and TV series do you usually read? And don't you think Lu Cheng's last fight was a little strange? I read all the novels in the boys' club. Brahmin replied happily. Little Nightfall, speaking of this, do you still remember the ID Lu Cheng's girlfriend? Have you registered a similar one? Of course. But a lot of interesting ones have been taken. Yan Shaoling said indignantly. Brahmin, what did you register? Me. I registered Lu Cheng's #1 fangirl. What about you? Brahmin boasted. Yan Shaoling sent a blank emoji. I registered Lu Cheng's daughter, Pht. Unparalleled Dragon King, Okamoto's fan, and the others all expressed their admiration. Indeed, Little Nightfall has no moral principles. Oh, Little Dragon, what did you say was a little strange? Yan Shaoling just realized. Unparalleled Dragon King joked, nothing, I shouldn't have discussed such a frivolous topic in such a serious situation. And after thinking about it carefully and analyzing it, it seemed to be understandable. Facing Lin Ke, Lu Qing held out his fist and bumped it with him to complete the handover ceremony. Then he lowered his voice and reminded him, don't get hurt. This was a home and away match. If his brother-in-law was injured, even if they won this match, they would lose the next match. Lin Ke took back his hand and nodded slightly. He passed Lu Qing and went to the stone steps. Before Lu Qing returned to his seat, he saw Yan Zhika coming to him with a big white towel. Does Hou Yu have supernatural ability? She asked in a low voice. Lu Qing took the towel and wiped the sweat on his head and neck. He nodded slightly and said, I think so, that's right. It's impossible that a ninth pin fighter would be impatient for no reason when facing Hou Yu. Speaking of this, Yan Zhika's dimples appeared. She pursed her lips and said, he doesn't. Lu Qing thought about it and said with a smile, he doesn't have an annoying face that makes the onlookers want to beat him up. Yes. Yan Zhika nodded quickly and returned to the guest seat with him. She let him put the big white towel on himself so that he wouldn't get cold because of the cold wind on the mountainside. Lu Qing was sweating a lot at this time and wearing a coat would make his clothes dirty. That was a good fight. I got hit by your frost force twice. Now it's settled. Sun Jian and Li Mao stood up one after another. They praised him sincerely and high-fived Lu Qing. After a short while, they sat down at the same time and looked at the arena again. Are you tired? Yan Zhika leaned to Lu Qing and asked in a low voice. Yes. Lu Qing didn't hide it. Yan Zhika felt sorry for him but couldn't hide her curiosity. She stared at her toes and asked softly, compared to the massage you gave me before, which was more tiring? Of course it was the shock force massage. My head is a little numb now, but I won't fall asleep as soon as my head hits the pillow. Lu Qing didn't show off his tiredness and said with a smile, almost. Almost. Yan Zhika's eyes sparkled. She pulled Lu Cheng's hand and helped him massage the acupoints on his palm and arm. At the same time, she pretended to be calm. She pinked her cheeks and covered the place where they were holding hands with Lu Cheng's coat to cover their interaction. Lu Cheng unconsciously raised the corner of his mouth and looked at the upcoming battle with a warm smile. Zhou Jingquan visualized a big river and made his blood flow like running water. The sound of splashing could be heard constantly. He wanted to wash away the frost and nourish his body as much as possible. This was the recovery method derived from the unique skill of the water sect. Lin Ke stood in front of him, arched his back, ready to attack. The referee raised his right hand and shouted, "Start." Lin Ke straightened his legs and straightened his back. He rushed out like a meteor and finished the attack with a speed faster than a professional ninth pin fighter. Ha! Zhou Jingquan was shocked but didn't panic. He exerted force on his ankle and rushed forward like water released from a sluice gate. It seemed that he was going to confront the enemy head-on. Seeing that they were about to meet, he suddenly swayed his center of gravity and slid to the side of Lin Quebec. At the same time, Lin Ke also swayed his center of gravity and finished the change of direction. They seemed to be dancing a dance with tacit understanding. Seeing this, Jiang Lan put down her right hand that was supporting her cheek and blurted out, "Mercurial balance." Has Lin Ke already mastered mercurial balance? To have mercurial balance, one had to master meditation and forcibly control it with the spirit. Or, all muscles and tendons were almost integrated and the whole body's strength was smooth and transparent. In other words, Lin Ke was very close to the Dan stage. At this stage, not only did the fighter have mercurial balance, but also the body's muscles and tendons were trained to the finest detail. Together with the strong spirit, he was close to absolute reaction. At most 2 months, he can really step into the Dan stage. Jiang Lan came back to herself and couldn't help but sigh. He is twice as fast as me. He deserves to be a famous genius. Experts know when they show their hand. After a short fight, Zhou Jingquan's heart became more dignified. However, compared to the fight with Lu Qing, he didn't have to hesitate, worry, or be overcautious. He could really use his martial arts strength. He stepped on the ground and the strength rebounded without leaking out. He forcibly pulled back his center of gravity and took the initiative to lean toward Lin Quebec. Lin Ke also didn't dodge. He slid to the left, shook his shoulder, and popped out his arm. He clenched his fist and hit his waist. Bang! Zhou Jingquan didn't dodge again. His back muscles swelled and his spine sprung. His right hand became a hammer and hit down hard. He once again launched the fly-fall punch, continuous. Puff! When the two fists met, he suddenly lowered his waist and sat down, making the strength, qi, blood, and all kinds of feelings in his body shrink and hug inwards. His whole body was like a big Dan. There was no warning at all during this process. He actually acted as if he was unleashing an ordinary attack. I know you will attack me before I completely get rid of the influence of frost. I will give you this opportunity. Chapter 208. Facing Zhou Jingquan's sudden contraction, Lin Ke felt as if he had hit a lifelike fake, as if he had stepped into an almost real trap. His arm went limp, followed by a jerk. His whole body was like a spinning top that had been whipped. He shuddered as he took 2 steps back, as if he was trying to use the yin-yang twist to seek shelter. Zhou Jingquan's qi, blood, and strength were all concentrated to a single point. In an instant, they gushed out like a volcanic eruption. His muscles swelled and propped up his fascia and skin. At this moment, Zhou Jingquan seemed to have grown taller and bigger. Crack! The black bricks at his feet cracked and sank. Like an eagle, he flew out, fiercely. In just 1 pounce, he was already in front of Lin Quebec. He visualized the accumulated flood and merciless surging. Then, he turned his waist and raised his arm, clenched his fist, and punched. Fly fall punch, dam break. His current ferocious aura was like a tiger returning to the forest, making it impossible for anyone to hide or avoid. This was the full strength of an 8th pin Dan stage fighter. At this moment, Lin Kei, who was retreating, suddenly stopped. All of his strength, all of his kinetic energy, and all of his chi and blood collapsed as if they had been preparing for a long time. Under the pull of gravity, they condensed into a ball. Boom! The sphere exploded, its power exploding and rolling out. Along with the image of a shooting star streaking across the horizon in Lin Kei's mind, it poured into his right fist, lifted his arm, and valiantly smashed it into the ground. Crack! Lin Kei pushed his feet inward and expanded his body. He twisted his waist and swung his shoulders, throwing out a punch like a meteor or cannonball. This. Jiang Lan's pupils shrank. She found that she had renewed her understanding of Lin Quebec. Force concentration was the main sign of the Dan stage. Although he could only condense it into a ball and not at the point, it was enough to explain many things. Perhaps he could completely form a Big Dan before the summer break at Songqing University. Bang! Zhou Jingquan's and Lin Kei's fists collided with each other, creating a muffled sound. The air around them was blown away, creating a turbulent wind. Boom! Zhou Jingquan felt as if he had been struck by a meteor falling from the sky. Not only did he have to bear the terrifying impact, but he also had to endure the subsequent explosion. He felt his bones and muscles tremble, his internal organs shake, and his blood and qi churn so much that he almost spurted it out. The meteor force activated by imitating the explosion of the Dan stage was truly extraordinary. More importantly, Zhou Jingquan was no longer in his peak condition. The influence of Liu Chang's Thunder Roar Zen and Frost Force still remained in his body. After one hit, he was almost completely paralyzed and temporarily lost his ability to move. Crack, crack, crack. Lin Kei, on the other hand, was being flung around by his opponent's boundless strength. He staggered backwards, crushing a brick with every step he took. After 5 consecutive steps, he finally steadied himself and exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. Under the effects of the flood that breached the dam, his yin-yang twist was unable to dissipate too much of the force. He had almost fractured his arm. This was the power of the combination of the explosion of the Dan stage and the dam break of the fly-fall punch. If Zhou Jingquan was not stunned, he would have grasped the opportunity to win. Lin Kei stomped on the ground and his body bounced forward like a meteor toward his opponent. Kill him while he's down. Bam! After a few steps, Lin Kei lowered his center of gravity, rotated his waist, and the muscles on his back and arms swelled. He ferociously threw a left swing punch. Zhou Jingquan had always been the kind of person who valued elegance over warmth. At this critical moment, his expression was calm. His qi and blood, strength, vibration, ice, stiffness, and spirit calmly contracted and condensed into a point again. He raised his arms and exploded the point in his body, letting the power roar out and drive his waist and back to suddenly turn around, sending out a strong and terrifying swing force. Lin Kei's fist just hit his opponent. It was like being hit by a 10-wheeled truck. His body flew out involuntarily, as if he was riding on the clouds. At this time, Zhou Jingquan's power contracted again and condensed into a point. His body seemed to have lost all breath, all blood, and all feeling of being alive. Boom! That spot suddenly exploded, and the turbulent spurt was directed at his legs, shattering his shoes. With the help of this explosion, Zhou Jingquan rushed to Lin Kei, who was just about to land in a posture that exceeded the limits of the human body. His speed and the leap made Yi Yaoting and other professional 9th pin fighters feel unimaginable. The standing long jump record of ordinary people couldn't be compared to this at all. Zhou Jingquan's rush was like a fierce tiger hunting for its prey. Accompanied by the whistling of the wind, he arrived in front of Lin Ke when he just landed. He lowered his waist and sat in his crotch, continuously using force concentration for the third time, condensing all his feelings into a point in his dantian. At this point, he had already used all his strength, even the killing move used to deal with mighty ones of the Dan stage. Flying Flow Triple Hit. Normally, 8th pin Dan stage fighters not only had a limited number of times to use all their strength, but also in the continuous use. Once 3 or 4 times, the body would be overloaded and problems would arise. Zhou Jingquan practiced the derivation of the unique skill of the water sect, which nourished him for a long time. Therefore, he was able to exceed the double explosion of ordinary 8th pin Dan stage fighters and complete the triple hit. Even if Wei Xingtian, who was also of the 8th pin, was here, facing his full strength, he would be in danger. This was the real deal of 3 or 4 moves for a life. Boom! That bit of strength exploded, and all kinds of feelings gushed out. Zhou Jingquan's body swelled, his muscles distinct and vaguely enlarged. In his mind, he visualized the unceasingly converging flood and the unceasingly rising accumulating force. After the mighty force bounced back from his feet, he let the torrent pour down and hit the ground fiercely, splashing a loud and clear sound of splashing water. He raised his right arm and clenched his fist like a hammer. He really used all his strength and smashed down with a loud bang. Flying Flow Punch, Waterfall. This time, he wanted to keep Lin Ke in place and not send him flying. Bam! The air exploded as the fist smashed down. Lin Ke had just stabilized his center of gravity when he was faced with this despairing blow. He quickly took a breath, his body trembling, and his qi and blood condensed into a ball in an instant. In his mind, he visualized a meteor that streaked across the sky and ignited his body. He lowered his waist, crossed his legs, and got into a good posture. Since he couldn't avoid it, he might as well give it his all. Boom! The meteor fell to the ground and the ball exploded, causing Lin Ke's temples to bulge. Part of his muscles expanded, but the other part was unusually tight. Bam! He raised his legs and swung his waist. His right hand formed a fist and punched upwards as if he was moving or blocking. Bang! Their fists collided. Both of their bodies shook at the same time, as if they would bounce up in the next second. Zhou Jingquan had the absolute advantage, so he didn't suffer much from the shock. However, the remnants in his body were far greater than Lin Ke's. Once triggered, his body shook endlessly, his qi and blood surged, and his throat became dry. This made his left leg, which he wanted to pull out, go weak, and he couldn't keep up in time. Lin Ke, on the other hand, was hammered down from above. His feet seemed to sink into the black bricks. His muscles and tendons were also shaken, trembling uncontrollably. At this moment, he was as stiff as a puppet, and eerily shot backwards as if he had been pushed in the chest by an invisible giant. Yin-Yang Twist. At the critical moment, he borrowed strength from the Yin-Yang Twist, and used it to exile himself away from Zhou Jingquan, to avoid the following attacks. Zhou Jingquan's flying 3 consecutive strikes was extremely terrifying. After blocking and borrowing, Lin Ke still couldn't resolve it. He could only follow the momentum and fall to the ground, rolling continuously. If he didn't do so, he would have suffered serious internal injuries. During this process, Lin Ke controlled the strength in his body, continuously twitching his tendons and bulging his muscles. He quickly collided with the ground, diverting and borrowing the force again and again. Zhou Jingquan managed to stabilize the shock and cold current with great difficulty. He was about to give chase when he felt his body become empty. He almost couldn't maintain his elegant posture. Sigh, if I could successfully throw myself out this time, Lin Ke would have lost. He couldn't help but sigh. If he hadn't been hit twice by the frost force, if he hadn't been hit by the tremor punch continuously, and if he hadn't consumed more energy than expected, now would be the time to reap the fruits of victory. Taking a deep breath, Zhou Xingquan took a big stride forward. Just as he was in front of Lin Ke, he saw Lin Ke's right hand press down and use the momentum to flip over. Then, without warning, his left leg lashed out. It was fast and fierce, with a force of at least 1,000 pounds. Bam! Dan stage fighters had absolute reaction, so Zhou Xingquan wasn't caught off guard. But his body's reaction was half a beat slower, so he couldn't seize the best time to kick out. He could only barely tighten his muscles and resist with a low kick. Bang! During the collision, Lin Ke took advantage of the force and stood up again. He stepped forward and punched without dodging. At this point, Zhou Xingquan was really close to his limit. But he found that Lin Ke was sweating like rain and his face was pale. Obviously, he wasn't relaxed, so he clenched his teeth and launched the continuous of the fly-fall punch to fight with his opponent in close quarters. Until now, Lu Qing, who had been holding his breath since Zhou Xingquan's 3 consecutive strikes, finally let out a long sigh of relief. He was shocked by his brother-in-law's near-death situation. If it were him, facing Zhou Xingquan's outburst, even if he was in peak condition, he wouldn't be able to withstand it. After all, his frost force needed to be prepared and couldn't be used in a flash. Is this the real fighting ability of an 8th pin Dan stage fighter? While thinking, he suddenly noticed that Yan Zhika's right hand, which was massaging him, was tightly holding his left palm. Don't worry. He reached out and patted the back of his girlfriend's hand, comforting her. Yan Zhika tightened her pretty lips and nodded slightly. Bang, 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 bang. The more Zhou Xingquan fought, the more frightened he was. He felt like he was facing an emotionless iron mask, without fear or worry. Obviously, he was tired, but his face was still indifferent and his eyes were still firm. He couldn't help but suspect that he had made a mistake. Lin Ke used the yin-yang twist as the core and the strength of his whole body as one. He launched the 24 blizzard strikes continuously. The more he fought, the fiercer and crazier he became. Chapter 209. Phew! Hearing the referee's announcement, Wu Qian and the others, who had come to cheer for Zhou Xingquan, finally spat out the tension and worry in their hearts. Although they had little contact with martial arts and had not watched much of the competition between body refining and Danqi realm, the momentum that Zhou Xingquan had just shown and the horror that was beyond the limits of the human body were clearly reflected in their minds, making them unconsciously feel scared, fearful, and uneasy. It was like a person who didn't know how fierce and terrible a tiger was, but when he really met it, he would have the most intuitive feeling. When the pressure was relieved, they were delighted. They raised their hands and cheered for the victory, forgetting that they were in someone else's dojo and that girls should be reserved. Lin Ke was so handsome and charming. Lu Qing had a girlfriend, but did he have one? Similar thoughts flashed through the minds of Wu Qian's roommates. Beside them, Zhao Qiang, Qiu Zhigao, and the others were also enjoying the taste of victory. The pressure of professional 8th pin in Dan state was so suffocating. Listening to the shouts in the spacious and quiet atmosphere, Zhou Xingquan patted his black martial arts suit, turned around leisurely, and walked down the ring unhurriedly, as if he had no intention of seizing the time at all. If he walked too fast, his movements would be unsightly. Thinking of this, he felt his calves were twitching and his thigh muscles were trembling. His body was showing signs of reaching its limit, so he had to walk slowly to maintain his elegant and calm demeanor. As for whether this would give Lin Ke a chance to recover, he was calm and not worried, because the focus was not on him, but on senior sister Joie. The distance he needed to walk down the arena was much less than the distance she needed to walk from the home team's seat to the arena. As long as he finished the stone steps before she ran, it wouldn't be a delay. In the seats of Songqing University Martial Arts Club, after hearing the cheers of Sun Jian, Li Mao, and the others, Yenjika finally relaxed her tense body and the lines of her pursed lips softened. She leaned towards Lu Qing and whispered, "I thought my brother would lose just now." There was a little fear in her voice that couldn't be concealed. Zhou Jingquan's 3 consecutive strikes seemed to be able to crush any professional ninth pin fighter. Under his clothes, Lu Qing held the girl's hand and smiled. "I was scared too." Yenjika's eyes sparkled as she looked at the figure standing in the ring. She could not believe her own judgment and asked, "What do you think my brother can do in this round?" "Your brother isn't a true Dan Stage Mighty One yet. He has imitated the outburst of a Dan Stage Mighty One twice in a row. Come, to push the meteor force, the burden is definitely not small." There were some words that he couldn't think of to express at the moment, so he simply used the written language. And he also withstood Zhou Jingquan's continuous outbursts. "I guess he's almost at his limit." What he was implying was that he shouldn't expect his brother-in-law to exhaust Shui Yanjun, or even defeat her. Yenjika showed her white teeth and bit her lower lip. Then she sighed, "I think so too." "Humph, you can't even say something nice to comfort me. Something nice to listen to." Lu Qing smiled and said, "We've already won 2 rounds. Even if your brother didn't exhaust Shui Yanjun, and even if senior Sun Jian didn't defy the heavens, we only lost 2 to 3. When we return to our school, we still have a chance." Speaking up to this point, he paused, and said without arrogance or inferiority, "After suffering this loss and knowing that Hou has such a supernatural ability, I won't be so affected anymore, and I won't be so tired when facing Zhou Jingquan. At that time, I'll be able to exhaust him even more, and even force out his continuous outbursts in advance, so that your brother can deal with him more easily and play the last round better. We have hoped to win 3-1 and turn the tables." Looking at her boyfriend's steady and high-spirited face and listening to his confident and not arrogant words, Yenjika's eyes sparkled. She unconsciously raised the corner of her mouth and nodded hard. In the fan forum, Eternal Nightfall, Yan Shaoling said, touching chin expression, "I suddenly feel that Lin K is not bad. He looks quite clean and good-looking. He also has a good temperament. Why doesn't he have a fan forum?" "Yeah, although I like my idol more, I have to admit that Lin K is better looking than him." Brahmin also sent a puzzled emoji. Unparalleled Dragon King replied, "I also feel strange. Logically speaking, girls like you should prefer handsome and cool guys like Lin Quebec." And in the previous live broadcast interview, he showed a lot of character. It's very, very indescribable. It's a little cute, right? Little dragon, I know you want to say this. Don't hide your girly heart. Yan Shaoling sent a funny emoji. To be honest, I'm a masochist. I really like this kind of cool and indifferent guy. But who asked me to meet Lu Qing first? I thought of that saying, once you meet Lu Qing, you'll regret it for life. What? You're a masochist. I don't know you. I don't have a son like you. Brahmin said with a shocked emoji. Unparalleled Dragon King wiped his cold sweat. Little Nightfall, you're the most self-deprecating girl I've ever seen. After that, he added, I think the reason why Lu Qing has a fan forum is because he created too many miracles in the Warrior Sage Challenge tournament. In the words of some novels, people pay more attention to him because he has the color of a legend. And after a long time, people will either hate him or become fans. I'm just kidding. Yan Shaoling spread her hands helplessly. Little dragon, what you said makes sense this time. I was influenced by Lu Cheng's crazy momentum when he defeated a professional ninth pin fighter. That's why I looked up his previous information. I was fascinated by him bit by bit. At this time, all the good names are taken by dogs, said, who says no one likes Lin K. I like him. But I prefer him and Lu Qing as a couple. So it's better to stay here, ah. The other female ID, Nye Chi-Chi, smiled and said, in my opinion, the reason why Lu Qing has a forum is mostly because of persevering fans like you, Little Nightfall. I quite like Lin K too. I thought of setting up a private forum for him, but I thought that after it was set up, only 1 or 2 people would chat in it. How boring would that be? Sigh, only you and Fan could persevere. Lu Qing already had hundreds of fans in the forum, but only 20 or so showed up during the competition. Less than 10 familiar faces were spamming the forum. It could be seen how difficult it was for a martial artist of a lower rank to gather fans. Many people might have been interested in the forum at that time, but soon forgot about it afterwards. Hey, I was praised. I'm embarrassed, Yan Shaoling sent a blushing emoji. Brahmin said excitedly, Little Nightfall, why don't you help Lin K to create a fan forum? We'll help you. Sob sob sob, I wanted to, but I'm a loyal child. Forget it. How about I go in a sock puppet? Yan Shaoling replied without any sense of shame. Forget it. Let's leave it to Lin K's true fans. Unparalleled Dragon King suggested. Yan Shaoling nodded and said, that's true. Little Dragon, do you think Songqing University can win today? Damn, why are you talking about such a frivolous topic at such a serious time? Unparalleled Dragon King complained crazily, and then said, it depends on how much energy Lin K has left. If he can give Zhui Yanjun a tremor punch, Sun Jian will be easy. If he can't, maybe they will lose 2-3. They still have a chance to make a comeback at home. They played weird today. With the coach's summary, it will be different when the time comes. Yes, I understand. I won't cry if I lose today. Brahmin interrupted. In the stands, Yi Yaoding was stunned for a moment. She looked at her companion beside her and asked, Sister Lan, why are you in a daze? Jiang Lan came back to herself and smiled. I'm thinking, if I were to face Brother Zhou at his peak, how confident would I be to not lose under his 3-hit combo? How confident? Yi Yaoding asked curiously. I'm not good at math. I can't figure it out. Jiang Lan rolled her eyes. How could she give a specific number based on her feelings? She thought for a moment and said, anyway, I'll be at a disadvantage. It won't be easy. After the preliminaries, I thought I had a chance to reach 7th pin. Now it seems that I was thinking too much. The ranking event for 6th pin and 7th pin would be expanded to include the combination of several provinces, such as the Southwest. Of course, places with many fighters such as the capital Huahai could hold it alone. As for the high-ranked Dan stage, that is, 4th pin and 5th pin, it would be a national competition. As for the top 3 pins, there were other rules. I thought I was the best among the professional 9th pin fighters. Yi Yaoding complained and made fun of herself. Jiang Lan turned to look at her and said seriously, you're already at the peak of body refining, and you've been through the preliminaries. It's time for you to take a break and think about the Dan stage. Otherwise, even Xiao Yuan will surpass you. He's gained a lot in Guangnan. Maybe within this year or in the first half of next year, he'll be able to reach the Dan stage. In the final round of the National University Martial Arts Competition in April, Li Xiaoyuan's Martial Arts Club of Guangnan University made it to the top 4, while Shanbei University, led by Peng Liyun, successfully defended its title. Yes. Yi Yaoding nodded with a rare solemn expression. When Zhou Xingquan walked down the last stone step leisurely, Shui Yanjun was already in front of him. After giving each other a high five, Zhou Xingquan lowered his voice and said gently, he's almost there. Don't be rash. Be careful of his counterattack. Okay. Shui Yanjun took a deep breath, passed Zhou Jingquan, and stepped on the stone step. She was different from most of the disciples of Wenqing school. She also practiced Xianshui swordsmanship derived from Xuanwu true sword, which was quite powerful. She had an unusual devotion to martial arts. Every time she stepped on the arena, she would first express her gratitude to martial arts for changing her life. I'm an ordinary girl. Except for my pretty name, my looks are ordinary, my personality is ordinary, my family is ordinary, and my IQ is ordinary. According to the normal development, I should go to an ordinary school, do an ordinary job, meet an ordinary boyfriend, experience one or several relationships, and finally step into the hall of marriage and live an ordinary life, just like what my parents showed me. Fortunately, I have the talent for martial arts, and now I can experience a different life. While expressing her gratitude, Shui Yanjun came to the opposite side of Lin Ke, thinking about Zhou Jingquan's words and waiting for the match to start. The referee ignored Lin Ke's breathing and raised his right hand. Begin. Shui Yanjun immediately moved, avoiding the front. Using her arms as swords, she cut, chopped, pointed, and flicked. She fought very cleverly. Lin Ke stood in place, using his hands, elbows, arms, shoulders, and legs to block. He looked like he was struggling to hold on. Her feet slid, and Shui Yanjun flashed to Lin Ke's side. Her right arm slashed diagonally, full of strength. At this moment, Lin Ke's face was abnormally red. His back muscles swelled, and his spine squirmed. He forcibly pulled his body to face Shui Yanjun, avoiding the sword. He stepped forward with his right foot, closing in on his opponent like a meteor. Then he raised his left arm, and his temples bulged. His right fist shot out like a cannonball. This series of moves flowed smoothly. Unexpectedly, Shui Yanjun only had time to block with her elbow. Bang! The fist hit. Her body shook, and various descriptions of the tremor punch flashed through her mind. She was about to take a deep breath to counteract it, but found that the vibration was so weak that she didn't feel anything. An arrow at the end of its flight, it's hard to penetrate the cloth. Suddenly, Shui Yanjun thought of one of Junior Zhou's favorite ancient proverbs. With a flick of her right arm, she slashed out horizontally, stopping at the frozen Lin Ke's neck. She saw sweat dripping down his face, and his eyes revealed a look of disappointment and unwillingness. Round 4, Shui Yanjun wins. The referee announced the result. Lin Ke didn't say anything. He turned around and walked down. His expression didn't change much, but his legs seemed to be heavier. Lu Qing jumped up from his seat and went to him, trying to support him. When he reached Lin Ke, he saw this silent and introverted brother-in-law slightly lower his head. He heard him say with difficulty, "I'm sorry, sorry." Lu Qing was stunned. He didn't know where this "sorry" came from, but he soon felt Lin Ke's stubborn desire to win and unyielding pride. Last time, after I defeated Wei Xingtian, I fought 2 more rounds to secure victory. I didn't let his desperate efforts go to waste. This time, although he defeated Zhou Jingquan, he didn't have the strength to fight again. So he was unwilling, so he was in pain, so he was sorry. Everyone felt that losing was acceptable, but he didn't. He only had victory in his eyes. This was Lin Ke. Lu Qing reached out and patted Lin Ke's shoulder. He said seriously, "Win it back next time." Chapter 210. Win the next round. Hearing Lu Cheng's words, Lin Ke didn't speak again. He only nodded slightly, but the disappointment and unwillingness in his eyes had faded away. Instead, a faint but absolutely pure desire to fight burned in his eyes. At this time, Sun Jian walked to the two of them and said half jokingly and half self-deprecatingly, I always said that you two would deprive me of the opportunity to fight, but now I really hope that you two won't give me such a chance. If this was a chat on the internet, he would have added a laugh and cry emoji. Lu Cheng was almost amused by him. He deliberately said in a serious tone, fight well and enjoy the greeting of a professional ninth pin. Enjoy. Sun Jian suddenly shivered and looked up at Zhui Yanjun, who was neither red nor out of breath. He had the illusion that a frog was about to challenge a poisonous snake. How to fight a professional ninth pin who was almost in perfect condition? This wasn't enjoyment, it was torture. However, if he didn't face a professional ninth pin directly, how could he figure out his own problems? How could he dare to face his own father in the graduation season? He took a breath and reached out his right hand to Lin Quebec. Lin K's expression returned to indifference, but he still raised his arm and bumped Sun Jian's right palm. As a psychology student, he knew very well that such ceremonies were to cultivate a sense of community and strengthen cohesion. But he didn't want to expose it and exclude himself. Sun Jian walked past his two companions and went up the stone stairs to the arena. Although he wasn't as nervous as Li Mao, he couldn't help but feel nervous. The gap between him and Zhui Yanjun couldn't be filled by shouting slogans and shouting hot-blooded words. Last year, when Chen Zhonghua challenged Lin Ke, he was already one of the best fighters of amateur first pin. He was so proud of himself that he wanted to take part in the professional ranking event. However, he was utterly defeated. After that, he practiced hard for more than half a year. It was not until the end of last month that he successfully broke through and got the coveted professional ninth pin certificate. Zhui Yanjun was rated as a strong ninth pin, so her strength should be about the same as Lin K's from last semester, or even a little bit stronger. But now, Lu Cheng, who wrote amateur third pin and studied amateur second pin, was still a lot weaker than Chen Zhonghua at that time. 1 plus and 1 minus, the gap between them was obvious. Forget it, I'll show my style and spirit. Sun Jian consoled himself and got into position. When the referee announced the start of the match, he followed the plan and did not engage in guerrilla warfare. Instead, he unexpectedly launched an attack. His bent back and knees straightened, and he pounced on his opponent like a ferocious tiger. Although Zhui Yanjun did not expect such a change, her strength was there, and she was confident. She calmly took a step forward and blocked the path of Sun Jian's footwork. Her right shoulder exploded, and her arm slashed vertically like a sword. Paw! The muscles on Sun Jian's right arm swelled, and with a shake of his arm, his fist ferociously smashed out, blocking his opponent's chop with a bang. At that moment, his joints popped, and he used the 1-inch force. His 5 fingers opened, and his fist turned into a claw. In a flash, he grabbed Zhui Yanjun's forearm. Flower-parting willow hand. Zhui Yanjun's arm softened and turned into noodles. Immediately after, she shook her strength and tightened it into a sword and an iron pole. She directly flicked Sun Jian's fingers away. She turned sideways, her abdominal muscles swelled, and her fascia pulled. Using her left elbow as a dagger, she quickly stabbed out. This was the combination of fly-fall punches, continuous, and black-water sword techniques, close-range stab. It was fast and extremely compact. Sun Jian did not have time to dodge, nor did he have time to use his legs. He could only force his shoulders to block with his arms. Bang! He was knocked back a step, but Zhui Yanjun was unforgiving. She continuously attacked, and in a few short moves, he was flustered. In the end, he was stabbed in the chest by a sword, and the pain was so great that he almost fainted. Round 5, Zhui Yanjun wins. The final result, Donglin squad wins. The referee's announcement made Zhang Jingye and the others fall into silence. In return, the home audience applauded in a reserved manner. Phew! Lu Qing and Yanjika exhaled at the same time, looking a little gloomy. Although this was an expected loss, and although there was still a chance for a comeback, a loss was a loss, and the result would not make people happy. Seeing the live reporter from Donglin TV station coming over, Lu Qing quickly calmed down and turned to ask Yanjika, "Is my expression okay?" "No." Yanjika pursed her lips and smiled, her eyes shining. "Good luck." "Okay." Lu Qing took off the big white towel draped over his body and stood up. "Hello, Lu Qing. I'm Zhang Hai, a reporter from Donglin TV station. Can I interview you?" The reporter said the same opening lines. Lu Qing did not hide the gloominess of his defeat. "Sure." Zhang Hai was a young man in his 20s. He looked quite amiable. Hearing this, he smiled and said, "Lu Qing, you guys have done well today. If it was a full score of 10, I would give you 9. I've read your profile. This should be the first time you've encountered a professional 8th pin of the dance stage in perfect condition, right? What do you think?" Lu Qing pretended to ponder and said, "Very strong. I was suppressed in all aspects, but I think I could have done better." "Oh, why do you say so?" Zhang Hai asked with interest. Lu Qing smiled bitterly. "Maybe it's because I cared too much and didn't have enough experience. I was very anxious in the first round and wanted to finish my opponent in one go. Not only did I make a lot of mistakes, but I also carried this emotion to the second round. I didn't make a better choice at the critical moment." He did not expose Hou Yu's supernatural ability and pretended to be ignorant, so that the Donglin squad could still rely on this in the next round. "All is fair in war." "I see. You've only been practicing martial arts for half a year. It's normal that you lack experience. Don't worry too much." Zhang Hai comforted him and continued to ask questions according to the outline. After a few questions, he politely stopped and went to interview Lin Quebec. Lu Qing took 2 steps back and leaned to Yanjika. He lowered his voice and said, "How was my performance just now? Would they see through my lies? Would it alert the Donglin squad?" Yanjika smiled and nodded with obvious dimples. "Very sincere and true." Speaking of this, she rolled her eyes and said with a faint smile, "I feel that you're good at lying. Will you lie to me like this in the future?" "This." Lu Cheng's mouth was half open and he was speechless. This was completely different from the answer he had expected. "Shouldn't you praise me? You were the one who taught me this deception strategy." "I feel like I've been tricked again." While thinking, he laughed and said, "How can I hide this little trick from you, Coach Yen? I'll lie to anyone but you." "Yes, yes." Yanjika nodded first and then said with a serious face, "You'll lie to anyone but me? Tell me, which girl do you want to lie to? This is all a trick." Lu Qing was stunned and did not dare to answer casually. Looking at his stupefied look, Yanjika finally could not help but laugh. She completely calmed down from today's regretful failure. The silly Qing is so adorable. On the other side, Zhang Hai stood in front of Lin Quebec. As usual, he made the opening remarks first and then asked, "Lin K, what do you think of the continuous outbursts of an 8th pin dance stage fighter today?" Lin K took a white towel to wipe his sweat and said calmly, "Very strong. He is really a man of few words." Zhang Hai kept smiling and said, "Then what do you think of your performance?" "Lost." Lin K spat out 2 words and then turned to walk to the away team locker room. "Lost? What kind of answer is this? I'm asking for your evaluation." Zhang Hai was confused. Not far away, Yanjika sighed and whispered to Lu Qing, "In my brother's dictionary, losing means bad. Did losing equate to being very bad?" Lu Qing could not help but think about this sentence. Although he would hate any kind of failure, he would not be as extreme as Lin Quebec. It was true that different people had different personalities. Thinking of this, he felt a little sympathy for the poor reporter who needed a translator to interview his brother-in-law. The return trip was still a busy one. It was almost 9 p.m. when the Martial Arts Club members arrived at the new campus of Songqing University. For convenience, they ate the high-speed train meal on the way. Seeing Yanjika's tiredness, Lu Qing did not try to lure her to take a walk by the lake. Instead, he held her hand and walked slowly on the pedestrian street. Their destination was the dormitory of the third building. When they were about to reach the door, he remembered that the bonus had been paid into his account and he could buy a ring. So he began to consider his words and asked Yanjika to go shopping tomorrow. Considering their current intimacy, there was no need to ask so seriously for a date. But Lu Qing wanted a surprise, so he was thinking about what excuse to use. Yanjika looked up and thought shyly and awkwardly whether she should take the initiative to propose a date tomorrow and take Qing to buy a ring to surprise him. If she wanted to propose, what should she say? She pursed her lips and looked to the side. When she was about to say something, she suddenly heard Lu Qing say with a smile, "Ku, would you like to go shopping with me tomorrow? My martial arts shoes are broken again. I need to buy a pair or two." Before Lu Qing could finish his excuse, he saw Yanjika smile sweetly. Her smile was so bright that even the light from the surrounding street lamps was taken away. Okay. Lu Qing did not know why the girl was smiling so happily, but he could not help but smile as well. Back in the dormitory, Lu Qing found the small dormitory empty. He immediately understood that Zhao Chang and the others would play in Donglin for a day to make friends. TSK, only girls can make Chang temporarily abandon his studies. He shook his head with a smile. Carrying a hot water bottle, he walked out of the small dormitory and prepared to wash up. At this moment, he heard the sound of the key turning and saw the door open. Kai Zongming walked in. "You're back." Lu Qing was startled. Kai Zongming smiled, "Surprise." "Surprise your ass." Lu Qing looked behind Little Ming in confusion. "Where are Chang and the others?" "They're still in Donglin. The train leaves at 5:00 tomorrow afternoon." Kai Zongming said matter-of-factly. "Then why did you come back by yourself?" Lu Qing asked, amused. Kai Zongming said, "I have special training tomorrow morning. Besides, I already have a girlfriend. I just need to help them get together. Why would I want to watch the model worker show off his love?" "Oh." Lu Qing showed his understanding with a smirk and said with emotion, "Talker, I didn't expect you to stick to the special training." Kai Zongming's face became serious. "Of course. I'm a man of my word." Then he pretended to be excited and said, "Qing, I'll make up for the bench seat next semester." Chapter 2:11. You'll fill the bench. Lu Qing looked at Kai Zongming from head to toe. He suddenly shook his shoulder and stretched out his right hand, grabbing Kai Zongming's left arm. His martial arts had been trained to the point where his muscles were so small that just the strength of his wrists and fingers could not be said to be able to tear apart iron chains, but at least he could tear apart flesh and blood. At this moment, his 5 iron fingers pierced through the air and unexpectedly let out a sharp whistling sound, full of momentum. Kai Zongming was shocked and immediately moved his left arm back to avoid the attack. Lu Cheng's first grab was a feint, but his first step was for real. His left foot caught up with Little Ming's, and he leaned and squeezed, causing Little Ming to take a step back and hit the back of the simple sofa. Little Ming lost his balance and was about to fall on his face. Lu Qing stretched out his right hand again and grabbed Kai Zongming's arm. He pulled Kai Zongming back and helped him regain his balance. During the whole process, Lu Qing never put down the hot water bottle in his left hand. He looked at little Ming, who had a baffled expression on his face. He raised his right index finger and shook it. He said with a smile, "Too weak. You want to dominate the bench of the martial arts club with this level of skill?" Kai Zhongming realized. He was angry and amused. "You're so cheap that I want to beat you up." Lu Cheng was also amused. "Come on, you're a dog if you don't beat me up." Kai Zhongming was so angry that he almost spat out blood. He said solemnly, "How can a cultured and well-mannered person like me be so violent? Come on, let's compete in games. As long as you can think of it, you can take your pick." "Okay, I'm not afraid of you." Before he had a girlfriend, Lu Cheng was also a teenager who liked to play games. But now he was short of time and could only play games occasionally. In the end, Lu Cheng lost miserably because he thought that replying to Yan Zhike's messages was more important than playing games. He was repeatedly delayed at critical moments and was trampled by Kai Zhongming. Kai Zhongming didn't reply to his messages because his straight-A student girlfriend Fang Yuan was still immersed in self-study. After relaxing, it was time for the usual training. The next morning, before dawn, Lu Cheng appeared by the Weishui Lake. Following the predetermined procedure, he repeated the still stance, moving stance, and other moves one by one. Practice makes perfect. This time, he spent more time on practicing the simplified physical invulnerability move, Severe Warning. He wanted to get started as soon as possible so that he could deal with Zhou Jingquan. Now that they had reached a situation where they had to win 3-1, and since they had expressed their desire and confidence to win back Yan Zhike and Lin Ke, they had to seize every opportunity to improve themselves. So far, mastering their most powerful killing move was definitely a crucial step. Lu tried his best. But it was too difficult, he felt. There was no shortcut. Foots. This made him a little impatient. He had to open his eyes and breathe in the fresh morning air to calm down the ripples. Geezer Shi, who was watching leisurely, laughed. "Do you want to master Severe Warning before Sunday?" "I have to try." Lu Cheng blushed. Geezer Shi walked over with his hands behind his back and said with a smile, "Even if it's just a simplified version, physical invulnerability moves aren't something you can master easily. Even if you can create miracles like the previous few times and barely grasp the basics before the weekend competition, it won't do you any good. Do you think Zhou Jingquan will stand there like a wooden stake and wait for you to prepare your Severe Warning? Wait for you to meet force with force? You need a short time to master your Frost Force, not to mention the Severe Warning you just learned. If you really put your hope on this move, you will be like a 3-year-old child holding a 1,000-pound hammer. Not only can you not hit the enemy, but you can also hurt yourself." Lu Cheng took a deep breath and felt that what his master said made a lot of sense. He had been too optimistic about it. Fighting with an 8th pin Dan stage fighter, who was much more experienced and powerful, an unskilled move would only be a failure. "Master, what should I do?" Lu Cheng finally thought of asking for advice. Geezer Shi coughed twice and said, "As an elder in your life and as your teacher, I have the responsibility to tell you that failure and setbacks are not things that you can avoid if you want to. Reality is not a game that you play. Not every obstacle is within your ability. Looking at the history of martial arts development, only a very few seniors who were second to none in terms of talent and luck were able to achieve undefeated in their lifetime. However, after the rise of professional competitions, the number of fights between the strong increased dramatically. This kind of feat can no longer be replicated. Experts as strong as the Dragon King, the Warrior Sage, and Geezer Shi paused for a moment before continuing, and some other experts have tasted failure and setbacks. It's not a bad thing for you to experience this earlier. I've seen many talented young martial artists who had a smooth start to their career and won many battles. Their confidence was inflated to the extreme. When they encountered an unexpected defeat, most of them couldn't accept it and were left with a serious flaw in their mentality. From then on, their improvement slowed down and they became ordinary people. Failure and setbacks not too early or too late can make you recognize your own limits. Recognize the limits of 1 year and 10 years. Then you will understand what you should do, what you should not do, why you should be in pain, and why you should not be in pain. Fighters who have survived many life and death battles have such characteristics. They know what is impossible, know what is risky, and know the limits of their ability. Lu Qing listened thoughtfully and nodded slightly. Indeed, after the battle with Zhou Jingquan, he realized the lack of experience and the gap between realms. After defeating Wei Xingtian, the slight contempt he had for the 8th Pin Dan stage had completely disappeared. If it was not so, he would not have thought of practicing severe warning. And this kind of failure only made him more determined, without too much pain and shaking of confidence. 1 year later, when he fought with Zhou Jingquan alone, he might not necessarily lose. But, to be honest, he really did not think this was a setback. Master, I understand. Lu Qing exhaled and answered. But what should I do now? I think we have a chance to turn the tables. Gizershur laughed. Now. Continue practicing severe warning. Ah. Lu Qing was confused. I have studied a lot. You can't lie to me. You didn't say that just now. Gizershur said leisurely, the purpose of practicing severe warning is not to master it, but to use it to further master Frost Force and Thunder Roar Zen. This is what you have to fight against Zhou Jingquan. Got it. Lu Qing suddenly realized. He had almost gone astray. The older, the wiser. After Lu Qing finished practicing hard and began to run around the lake, Gizershur hummed a little song and walked to the martial arts club leisurely as if he had drunk 10 pounds of wine. He had held back those words for several months, and now he finally had a chance to say them. He felt really comfortable in both body and mind. He felt that the sky was blue, the water was clear, the wine was good, and the air smelled better. In order to prepare for that lesson, I carefully selected a few simple but meaningful words and specially consulted the young teacher next door. I chose the most acceptable game analogy for teenagers. Do you think it is easy for me? Gizershur drank a mouthful of wine happily. At 2:00 in the afternoon, Lu Qing woke up from a nap to relieve the tiredness from the hard practice. At the thought of going shopping with Yan Zhike and finding a chance to give her a ring of great significance, he was so excited that he rushed into the bathroom, cleaned himself up, and combed his hair until it looked fresh and clean. What should I wear? Should I wear something more formal to give her a ring? The inexperienced Lu Qing went back to the wardrobe and fell into deep thought. It was the middle of May, and the sun was shining brightly in recent days. Short-sleeved t-shirts and jeans were the mainstream outfit. Recalling Little Ming's guidance, he picked a pair of casual pants and a navy blue shirt. After thinking for a while, he added a thin jacket. Although it was silly to wear a jacket in this temperature, the air conditioner should be on in the mall. If Ku felt cold, the jacket would come in handy. Ha! Lu Qing went out feeling good about himself and came to the door of the 3rd dormitory. After a few minutes, he saw Yan Zhike appear at the entrance of the unit. She was wearing a white half-sleeve dress with a small waist, highlighting her slender figure. The hem of the dress was just above the knee, with the tulle wrinkles, elegant and light. Coupled with her delicate facial features, elegant and graceful, and her long hair fluttering when she walked, Lu Qing really felt like he was looking at a fairy. Although they saw each other every day and he was used to it, he was still amazed by her beauty from time to time. Maybe this is beauty in the eye of the beholder. Yan Zhike was wearing a pair of white shoes. She didn't wear a very mature outfit, which fully displayed the most charming youth and pure beauty of her age. Feeling her boyfriend's passionate gaze, she was a little shy. She outlined her dimples, looked to the side, and said as if nothing had happened, "Let's go." Lu Qing held her hand and said shamelessly in a low voice, "I thought I saw a fairy just now." Yenjike's bright eyes narrowed. She said with both anger and delight, "You're so mushy." Hee hee. Lu Qing chuckled. Only then did he notice that the girl was carrying a light orange-red sling bag, which added a touch of color to her plain outfit to prevent her from looking monotonous. "I think your bag looks familiar," he said casually. "It's like, Yenjike chuckled and helped him add, "like the yellow bag that old ladies carry when they go to pray to Buddha." "Yes, yes, yes. Except for the different color, everything else is similar." Lu Qing nodded hard. "I don't know what foreign designers think." Yenjike chuckled. "I remember LV has a red, white, and blue handbag, which is similar to our woven bag." "Huh, yeah, I've also seen that news." Lu Qing echoed with a smile, and then said in confusion, "But I remember it's Louis Vuitton in the news." Yenjike suddenly burst into laughter. She turned to look at him, her eyes sparkling as she said, "Idiot. LV is the abbreviation of Louis Vuitton." Lu Qing wiped his non-existent cold sweat. "I always thought there were two brands." He learned something new again, Yenjike chuckled. "My other cousin also thought so before he had a girlfriend." "Well, remember, it's also nicknamed Donkey Brand. The knowledge of boys and girls is really different." Lu Qing once again felt that Coach Yen was indeed his life mentor. They talked about all kinds of things and seemed to have endless topics to talk about. It was not until they boarded the school bus and sat side by side that they suddenly quieted down for a moment. "Later on, according to the predetermined opportunity, I'll give her the ring in a surprise way." Lu Qing smiled and looked at the aisle, not letting her know what he was thinking. How embarrassing it would be to give each other rings later. And how should I hint to Qing? I can't suggest it directly. Yenjike turned to look out of the window, shy and happy. Chapter 2:12. The school bus started to move slowly. Yenjike recalled something and pulled Lu Cheng's hand. She pouted and said, "Qing, our plan of deception is probably useless now." "Why?" Lu Qing was puzzled and held the girl's left hand. Yenjike answered with slight annoyance, "I forgot about Coach Shi. He's a mighty one with physical invulnerability. The elders of Wenqing School wouldn't be so naive as to think that he couldn't see anything. Oh my god, how embarrassing. As the IQ of the martial arts club, I actually made such a big mistake." It was all because Coach Shi's presence had been too weak during the previous competition. He had been the one to analyze the situation between himself and the enemy, and he had forgotten that there was such an old senior. Yes, it's all his fault. Lu Qing didn't think much about it at that time. Now that he heard his girlfriend's words, he immediately realized. "You're right. It's mainly because during the preliminaries, we were like children without a mother. I almost forgot that we had a coach." "You think so too?" Yenjike was so moved that she almost burst into tears. She looked at Lu Qing pitifully and shook his hand gently. "Right? It's not my fault. And he hasn't reminded me of this since the end of the competition." Lu Qing mumbled to himself. "When I went to the Warrior Sage Challenge tournament, my master didn't tell me what to pay attention to for the first time either. I don't know if he forgot, or he was too lazy, or he purposely gave me a chance to train." Yenjike found an ally and felt relieved. She thought for a while and said, "Maybe we can beat him at his own game, huh?" "What do you mean?" Lu Qing asked in confusion. Yenjike pulled back her hand and unlocked her phone. She opened her notebook and typed quickly while telling her boyfriend, "You see, the depth of our thinking is like this. On the first level, we pretended not to notice Hou Yu's supernatural ability. Wenqing School knew that we had a mighty one with physical invulnerability and saw through our act. They wouldn't be fooled, so they changed the original plan from A to B, thinking further down, which is the depth of our thinking just now, is called the second level. We thought of the flaw of the physical invulnerability coach and understood that the deception plan had failed. We knew that the Wenqing School wouldn't follow the original plan of relying on Hou Yu's supernatural ability for the competition. What about the Wenqing School? They should have expected us to notice this. Even if we didn't, the physical invulnerability instructor would have warned us. Therefore, the improved version of Plan A is even more unexpected. Lu Qing was a little confused, but he was still a student who got into Songqing University on his own merit, so he managed to grasp the main point. This kind of deep thinking game can be played continuously, right? I know something. That's right. There's only one key point in analyzing the depth of one's thoughts, and that is to accurately determine which level the other party is at, and then let oneself be one level deeper than the other party. Yan Zhike typed quickly and focused on her analysis. Our current information focuses on the martial arts and fighting styles of the members of the Donglin squad. We lack information on their personalities, habits, and social interactions. For now, we can only make a preliminary judgment. Their depth of thinking is probably at the second level. Listening to her serious analysis and looking at her focused expression, Lu Qing felt that Yan Zhike was so beautiful that he couldn't take his eyes off her. He used his sharp senses to confirm that there was no one around, so he put his arm up to block the most likely line of sight. He leaned over, lowered his head, and gave her a quick peck on her pink and smooth cheek. However, they are very likely to choose a safer and more conservative strategy. Yan Zhike revealed a thoughtful expression. Suddenly, she saw a shadow in front of her, and then she felt a sudden warmth on her face. She was stunned for a few seconds, and then she lowered her voice in shock and shyness. "What are you doing?" "This is the school bus." Lu Qing didn't take any further action. He sat up straight again, looked into her eyes, and laughed in a low voice. Coach Yan was so beautiful just now, Yan Zhike suddenly understood and blushed. She snorted and held back the smile on her face. She turned her head to look out of the window and said, "Pervert." Her side profile was as beautiful as a peach. Lu Qing was complacent and laughed. He was happy to be called a pervert. After a few minutes, the heat on her face faded a lot. Yan Zhike looked around guiltily, only to see that everyone was drowsy in the afternoon sun and the slightly swaying bus. Phew. She exhaled quietly and changed the topic with sweetness in her heart. "Cheng, how far have you practiced that simplified physical invulnerability move?" Cheng's face is getting thicker by the day. He can even say those mushy words without blushing or panting. Lu Qing first told him about his master's advice and then said, "That's all I can do for now." Severe warning isn't something that can be mastered just because you want to. I still need some heat to overcome the first obstacle. The first obstacle? Is it the connection between the two visualization methods you mentioned before? Yan Zhike was very curious about her boyfriend in martial arts. When the two were combined, the effect was much more than 1 + 1. Looking at his girlfriend's bright eyes, Lu Qing nodded helplessly. Yeah. One is thundercloud, the other is ice. Not only do they have nothing in common, but they also repel each other. Yan Zhike's bright eyes looked up and muttered, "The core of my grandfather's yin-yang twist is the transformation of the two contradictory things, yin and yang. In terms of materialistic dialectics, it is opposition and unity. Cheng, I think you should think in this direction." At this point, she smiled and took Lu Cheng's forearm, drawing circles on the back of his hand. "This symbol is very vivid." Lu Qing stared at it and felt it with his heart. He whispered to himself, "Tai Chi, opposition and unity, the transformation of yin and yang. Thoughts flashed through his mind. Suddenly, he thought of a better reference. Isn't the Jin Dan in my body the unity of ice and fire? Can I imitate it and not try to connect the two visualization methods, but directly mix them together to form a similar balance? In that case, will the final, severe warning be mutated? The more Lu Qing thought about it, the more excited he became. He held Yan Jike's hand and looked at her sincerely. I think I have an idea. Coach Yan is indeed amazing. Really? Yan Jike was pleasantly surprised, happy and proud. Yes. Lu Qing said with a hint of urgency. Let's try it tomorrow morning. Yan Jike didn't reply. She pursed her lips and smiled. She felt a strong sense of participation and accomplishment. In a famous shopping mall in Songqing, Yan Jike took the box from the shop assistant and passed it to Lu Qing. Try this pair. Lu Qing glanced at the price and whispered, you don't have to buy such an expensive pair. It's easy to break anyway. The first pair of martial arts shoes Yan Jike gave him had a special meaning, so he didn't wear them often. He only used them occasionally for training and would wipe them clean as soon as possible. He cherished them as if they were his own body. It's not too expensive. Yan Jike paused and changed the topic. She smiled and said, I believe you get what you pay for. A good pair of martial arts shoes can help you exert force. Although it may only increase your strength by 1% or less, it's better than nothing. Besides, the martial arts shoes of other brands are not that much cheaper. As long as a martial artist didn't practice Golden Bell cover, he was still immortal before he reached the physical invulnerability state. During a fierce fight, if he stepped on something sharp with his bare feet, he might hurt himself. The martial arts shoes were a layer of protection. If it wasn't necessary, no one would deliberately break them. Not that much cheaper. Lu Qing ridiculed him. That's hundreds of yuan. It was enough to cover a month's worth of food expenses. Although he had gone through tough times in the last 3 years of primary school and middle school, he had the care of his grandparents and cousins. In addition to his own personality, he loved money, but he did not develop the habit of being stingy. Now that he had just earned a large amount of extra income with his own ability, he was full of confidence. The young man was full of spirit, and it could even be said that he was a little extravagant in spending money. Of course, he was willing to spend money for Yan Jike. He was a little frugal for himself. At this moment, he remembered the rule that, whatever Coach Yan says is right. He didn't refute and tried one pair after another. Well, let's go to Feiyue and have a look. Yan Jike glanced at the shoes he tried and made a decision happily. She was happier to take Qing shopping than to buy clothes by herself. Still looking. Lu Qing was at a loss as to what he had been doing for so long. Yan Jike answered matter-of-factly, yeah, let's shop around. Maybe there are some activities and discounts in other stores. You don't care about this little discount, do you? As a good student of Coach Yan, Lu Qing asked in confusion. Yan Jike glanced at him and smiled. This is different from buying cheap martial arts shoes. Anyway, we will buy good martial arts shoes. If there is a discount, we will make a profit. Although it's not much, I like the feeling of making a profit. What kind of logic is this? Lu Qing was stunned. Yan Jike raised her head proudly. A woman's logic, okay. Lu Qing was speechless. He followed Yan Jike to one store after another. Finally, they went back to the first store and picked the first and third pair of martial arts shoes they tried. I tried for so long. What is it for? Lu Qing wiped his non-existent cold sweat. When they were at the cashier, Yan Jike took out her card. Let me do it. Lu Qing stopped her. Yan Jike pretended to be proud. I'm going to get the bonus. I want to buy something for my boyfriend, not if you are my boyfriend. Okay, okay. At this point, what else could Lu Qing do? He could only nod his head with sweetness in his heart. Yanjika paid the money and pointed to the upper floor. Let's look at the clothes. I feel that you only have a few summer clothes. Well, you are very suitable for wearing slim clothes now. Okay. Lu Qing carried the 2 bags and followed his girlfriend. He used to read on the internet that men often complained about shopping with their girlfriends or wives. The most common type was that the girl was shopping while the man was resting, but he was so tired that he was about to be paralyzed. However, now he wanted to say that the most tiring thing was not this. It was your girlfriend who kept asking you to try this and that. Although it was very happy and sweet, it was physically and mentally exhausting. Couldn't you choose quickly and buy quickly? Only a freak with abnormal stamina like me can enjoy it, right? Lu Qing thought proudly. When he had a few more bags in his hands, Yanjika finally walked to the first floor of the mall. Lu Qing looked at several famous jewelry stores nearby and began to think about how to lure Yanjika there. When he was thinking about what to say, Yanjika said excitedly with a pink face, "Qing, let's look at the jewelry, huh, so simple." Lu Qing was stunned and nodded quickly. Okay. Later, he would encourage Yanjika to try a set of rings and remember her favorite type and the size of her finger. Then he would pretend that he was not satisfied with the type and take her away. Then he would use the bathroom as an excuse and come back to buy it. Then he would give her a surprise during dinner. Hee hee. Lu Qing went over his plan one last time and felt that it was perfect. He even thought about what to say when he gave her the ring. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.